What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Carlotta Chat with Show. Okay, so this one, I think this show I'm getting ready to do right now is probably going to be the last one for a little bit, unless something big comes up, and then I'll come on. It's going to be the last one before I change it over. So I hope you guys enjoy how I'll walk with you guys as I change it over and let you know when the new page and everything will be up and stuff like that. So it's soon. I'm working on it now. So it is soon, and I'm slow, y'all, when it comes to I'm slow when it comes to certain things. So because I got a lot of stuff going on. So you guys, yeah. So this is going to be like me doing the Carlotta Chatwood show, wrapping it up. We're gonna do something different. It's still gonna be the Carlotta. We're still gonna have elements of the Carlotta Chatwood show. I'm just gonna name it differently and stuff like that. And we're gonna have a new, like a kind of like a newsletter to go along with it and stuff like that. So, which is our web page. So I hope you guys will enjoy the new concept that I'm working on, and it'll be a lot easier for me to communicate with everybody because a lot of people were like, Carlotta, we didn't know you were coming on StreamYard. And so it'll be a lot easier for me to get out things for you guys, and so you guys can know about StreamYard and that I am on StreamYard, okay, and that I am on YouTube because y'all didn't know the YouTube, okay. So, and I haven't been advertising anything like that or putting it out a lot. So we're gonna change that, okay. We're gonna change it. All right, so you guys, I mean, hey, how's your weekend been? Mine has been so good. It's been good. My week was good. Uh, really just been really kind of busy here and there, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's a word today. What is your it's a word? I don't really have one. I'm gonna tell you something. I just been like, look, this, we're at, this is today's the full moon in Aquarius. Even though we've been able to see the full moon, I think now for a couple of days, but it's full moon in Aquarius. So I believe this is the full moon where, Aquarius, if you know anything about it, the sign of Aquarius, it is an odd sign. It is a sign about philanthropy, but it's also a sign of deep thinking, unusual thinking. They're known as the water bearers. Um, the Aquarian is a special fish, right? Well, no, it's not. Would you really consider? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if you could consider the Aquarius a fish. I have to look that up. I don't know, but it's known as being the water bearer. Okay, and a part of the like, even though Aquarius, and it's always been an odd sign. So we can expect for the full moon it to be. And let me look this up. Okay. See, so I can talk to you guys about this. This is what we're gonna do. This is your it's a word, okay? Uh, Aquarius is an air sign, but to me, Aquarius, there's three air signs: it's Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. But to me, Aquarius is the deeper part of that air sign group. Okay, it thinks deeper, it thinks differently, it processes things differently. And so it's very interesting. To me, sometimes Aquarius can act, my personal opinion, and astrologers out there can tell me if it's wrong or whatever, but I feel like sometimes Aquarius can act a little like an earth sign, so very interesting. So so we're having that full moon tonight in Aquarius, and what it means for us. I can tell you what it means for me. Deep change, deep introspective change that I've been going through the last few years, but really a sense of changing my structures, which has been hard. Let me tell you something. At 50 some years old, changing structures becomes something different. That's why young people set your structures when you're young and just constantly change, because when you're older and you start to change those structures, there's a lot of deep rooted attachments that come, especially for me being a Scorpio. I'm a fixed sign, and it comes deep rooted attachments, and it's so hard sometimes to see, sometimes what gets in the way of me being a water sign, I think, a Scorpio, what gets in the way of me breaking attachments is change, because we Scorpios, we are the sign of transformation, but we hate change in some senses. So that's the part that makes it sometimes hard for water signs to be able to, I mean, especially Scorpios, to be able to see when your structure needs to change and things need to change, because sometimes it's often, even though we are gifted with being able to see, sometimes we're not gifted with being able to see when our structures need to change, because we're clouded by the concept of change for us and what that means to us and how uncomfortable that makes us as water signs. So for me, this full moon in Aquarius is messing with all of that for me. Okay, it's messing with all of it. Right. And so I am like, yes, like it. My life is forcing me to make new structures, and I just outside of astrology, I just feel like that's what God is speaking to me about, creating different structures, creating a different way of living, and creating a structure for me that which being a free spirit, sometimes I hate. Back in 2022, I feel like I had to create another structure, and it helped me so much to get through my last year of school, my last year of undergrad. And this year, I'm kind of like in the last 2 or 3 semesters of my master's degree. And I am facing that same energy again. Like, you have to structure because you got so much ish going on. I mean, like I'm excited because there are so many new things happening, and so I'm like, wow, I gotta be ready. And especially at the beginning of the year, like, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm trying, I'm really trying to get myself structured so that when the disturbances do come, or when I have disturbances, they're at a minimal for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm moving in a structured way that I can I can be able to get through those things. Okay, so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's different, you guys. It's really it's harder when you're older because it's just so many other things attached and things going on and stuff like that. And yeah, it's one of those times. Okay, so listen, I'm gonna read one of the read some of the articles that are about the full moon, which I love. I love the idea concepts of full moon and stuff like that. This one, I heard an astrologist say the other day how this one is very tricky because it's in Aquarius, and you know, you you have to, a lot of people were talking about manifestation on the 8th, and they were talking about be careful what you're manifesting. It's true. I mean, I agree. I was like, that's very tricky. But it says the 2025 Aquarius full moon is here. Electrifying shifts are on the horizon. Okay. This article is from Woman's World. And it's under Yahoo Lifestyle, but it says, as we settle into the steamy, sunny August, making the most of Leo season means bonding with your nearest and dearest, following your heart's boldest desires, and nurturing what makes you unique. So remember, we're also in Leo season, okay? And Leos are very loud, proud, and very out there, okay? Leo suns, okay? I'm a Leo rising, so I appear like a Leo to the world, but yeah, that's a different thing altogether. But yeah, but it says you'll be challenged to work through the push-pull of celebrating your individuality, sense of self and pride versus being a team player and prioritizing community over self. Following on Saturday, August 9th at 3:55 a.m., the full moon in Aquarius is co-ruled by taskmaster Saturn, the planet of boundaries, and electrifying Uranus, which is a whole nother story, the planet of rebellion and innovation. In turn, this is a full moon that encourages you to do the work, to strike out on your own, defy convention, embrace your inner contrarian, and take stock of your platonic bonds. And in 2005, the astrological weather around this lunar event fuels confusion and frustration while also serving as a fruitful ground for romance and creativity. Okay. And a lot of times, this brings in a lot of new relationships. Okay. A lot of people are talking about that, astrologists. You may find yourselves breaking up with old relationships a lot. I mean, that's been the last few years too. It's been something shifting in the atmosphere. That's why you're hearing people like divorce after 20 years. It's crazy. But this is that time because there is these underlying things working that affect us in some sort of ways and stuff like that. So here's all you need to know about this intense lunar event so you can make the most of it. And we talk about what is full moon. What is a full moon in Aquarius? I'm gonna skip that other part, but it says no matter what the sign it falls in, every full moon invites you to reflect on where you've been and what you need to release and move on from in order to prepare for what lies ahead. Full moon encourages the acknowledgement and processing of deep-rooted emotions. Because of this full moon, aka the sturgeon moon, I hope I'm saying that right, sturgeon moon, referred to as such because of its indigenous Americans in the Great Lakes area caught an abundant supply of the freshwater fish in late summer is happening in rational, science-minded, and resolute, as well as often obstinate Aquarius. Okay, you could be inspired to let go with a surge of rebellious energy, and as aloof as Aquarius can be. Oh, and they can be. Okay, I told you I'm an Aquarius whisperer too. I'm like a Pisces whisperer. I'm an Aquarius whisperer. Can be there. There might also be the urge to steer clear of challenging emotions altogether in an effort to stick to facts over feelings, even when they're bubbling over. The good news is that facing whatever's coming up for you uh, head on could lead to setting up structures and laying productive, healthy groundwork for your future. Because this full moon is ruled by Saturn, the planet of maturity and responsibility. And given the Aquarius is associated with the 11th house of friendships, you can also take advantage of Aquarius penchant for nurturing platonic bonds and being an integral part of any community, team, or group, and lean on friends, colleagues, and neighbors to address any issues that arise now. Okay. Um, and they talk about you can make the most of 2025 Aquarius full moon by leaning on self-care in your community, stay grounded, and you can lighten your emotional load ahead of one of the luckiest days for love. Okay, which is this is interesting. The full moon happens just ahead of the most fortunate heartfelt days for romance, relationships, beauty, earning, and love on August the 11th, August the 12th. Venus, the planet of pleasure, will join up with Jupiter, the planet of fortune and abundance, and sweet, sentimental, emotionally intelligent cardinal water sign Cancer. When the two benefics together get together, you can expect optimism, harmony, lightheartedness, playful romance, and creativity to soar. If you're in love, you have the chance to deepen your bond. And if you're single, you could fall head over heels for someone new. And because of this alignment is happening in the family-oriented sign of the crab. The stage is set for plenty of sweet bonding at home with your nearest and dearest. Okay. Yeah, so this is very interesting. So, and this see at the same time you're having these luckiest days in love and stuff like that, but also you're having at the same time old paradigm shift. So old relationships are even shifting. So people, this can affect even the way people who've been in long-term relationships, and if they're not going well or if they're not doing well, you can find yourself like people out that not doing well in those, and maybe perhaps maybe looking out at the horizon for maybe ideas of new love. So that's interesting. This is interesting. We're coming up with a very interesting side. It's lots of shifts going on, I think. Surprising shifts that will probably happen in that astrologists are predicting over the next several years. But if you want to read this full article, it's really interesting. It's on yahoolife.com. Okay, and that's it's a word. It says that there are magnetic shifts happening in and in this with this full moon, and because it's in Aquarius, you might find them strange. And are we still in Mercury retrograde? I think so. They say in Mercury retrograde. I had a friend who was telling me the other day, somebody was reaching out to her, and I was like, it's Mercury retrograde. You can't pay attention. Because in Mercury retrograde, people try to come back. You know how it's really old loves try to come back in Mercury retrograde. You have to. A lot of times you have to wait till some astrologers believe you have to wait till outside of Mercury retrograde to see if it's real, or or if it's like, just not like so people going through something or something like that. So yeah, so very interesting. That's interesting what's happening too. Okay. All right, you guys. Okay, so the title today of the show, I talked about Pan Africanism. And what did I say? What did I name the title? Shit, I don't forget what I named the title of the show. Yeah, I'm crazy. Y'all know how crazy I am. Okay, well, I want to talk about Pan Africanism because I saw a post today that was rather interesting, and I thought to myself, is Pan Africanism still a concept that does it help Black America or hurt Black America? Because it's a concept that is largely was created by in America through Black Americans. Okay, Pan African, and I often say I think now I used to be a Pan Africanist, and I often say that Pan Africanism was rooted on flimsy thought. We didn't understand as most Black people were dealing with trauma from racism in America. And so we looked for anybody or anyone to help out of, or to, we were like, we were thinking, of course, people with the same color and, of us understand what's going on, but we're not understanding what we didn't have a full picture of what the continent of Africa was and understanding its participation in the slave trade. I remember always having debates with people when I was a Pan-Africanist. And one of the great things that they would that white people would always, and it's just not white people, other people would always bring up is like the Africans participated in the slave trade. And one of the excuses that we always used was like, well, they didn't know how harshly the slave trade would be. Oh, yes, they did. Because they were harsh tribalists. So, and then some people, if you understand how slavery happened and tribalism was part of the reason they would snatch slaves from other tribes or take some people in Africa had slaves themselves, and they would, even though their slavery system was very different from America, sort of like a peasant system or something like that, they would trade those people off and stuff like that. And the Americans introduce or reintroduce, because it's a concept that we have not seen, you had not seen in the slave trade to America. America not only has chattel slavery, but it introduces the concept of race. You're a slave because you're Black. You're not good enough. You're not even human. You're not even a person. Knowing very well that they had they had partnerships with Africans. Okay, so but this was interesting. They Black, even America has a concept 3/5 human, all kinds of things. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Slavery is brutal. If you even have in America, if you even have a drop of Blackness, they go, if you in the slave, in during slavery, you're Black and you're essentially a slave. Okay. And it was very little room for that unless you happen to buy your freedom, which seldom happened. And it's a whole big huge system what happened in America and chattel slavery and the brutality of slavery, chattel slavery, the longest running slavery. And then not only does America have that concept of race, but then it reintroduces it again with another 100 years of segregation, discrimination, of Jim Crow laws that we're still overcoming to this day. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I saw on It's On Site. I like on It's On Site, by the way. It's On Site.com had a very interesting, a white young lady talking. And I wanted to pull this up and what she said. Okay. It's very interesting what she said. And so I'm going to share it with you guys if I can. Yeah. Okay. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, let me add this on the screen so you guys can listen. Okay, this young lady is talking about why is there such a deep hatred for Africans all over the world. I disagree that it's deep hatred just for Africans all over the world. There is a specific group that this hate has been targeted at, even though Africans have fallen into that now. But then I explain why I think my concept behind that. Okay, so let me let you hear this thing first. Okay.
It's like to be disrespectful. And maybe this is, some people are going to think this sounds dumb, but I feel like there's a deeper reason why,
Yes, of
people of
course.
color and specifically the Black community have been relentlessly persecuted. Like, I mean,
Go
just the
ahead.
things
Go
that
ahead.
happened during slavery alone, like, were insane. But I don't know, the more I learn about Black history
Keep
and
saying it.
the ways that, people
Keep
who
saying
literally
it.
worked in the government, like the CIA, all these different people in power were trying to ruin the Black community. And it makes me think, dude, I feel like, is there something more going on here than just racism? Because it's like, come on, you're telling me you're doing all of this stuff just because you don't like someone's skin color? I feel like, what if, I have this theory that, like, what if Black people have some type of superpower? Like, what if they have, I don't know, if they're just born something with something very valuable that we don't really know about, but maybe, like I said, these people, these rich people and these people in power, maybe they figured it out a long time ago, and maybe that's why they were like, oh, we have to, like, get rid of them, blah blah blah. I don't know. I feel like maybe they have something special that we are not taught about, that is linked to them being people of color. And I've seen some Black creators come on here and try to explain how special it is to have melanin in your skin and how it has all these different properties. But I don't know. I just feel like I feel like this. I have this theory that this goes so much deeper than maybe a
Wow.
lot of us realize. Because I'm sorry, but I don't think you're gonna go out of your way for all these hundreds and hundreds of years to try to ruin one group of people over something as silly as, oh, their skin is a different color. Like, I feel like there's something that we don't know. I'm telling you, there's something special about them that they don't want us to know.
Okay. And let me explain. She is speaking from an American concept because what did she say? The first thing she said, why the CIA? She's speaking about America. America is the one who used racism. And then South Africa can understand this concept a little bit themselves because South Africa is probably the only continent, I mean the only country on the continent of Africa, or the only place on the continent of Africa who's experienced racism in the way that Black Americans have. It's South Africans. So they, in some senses, understand this because Europeans try to bring over the American trope to them. Okay, uh, no other group has experienced. They mostly experienced colonization, and Europe and South Africa would have probably gotten a little bit of both, right? Uh, I say that it has not been a hatred towards Africans. I don't even think it's the melanin in the skin. I've completely changed my concept a lot about a lot of this stuff. I actually believe that it was the groups that Africa traded with. Africa was in the midst of the slave trade. The reason the slave trade happened and they were able to partner, Europeans were able to partner with Africans. And you find out the little shit they partnered with them about spices and colored material and shit like that. They was doing the most. Okay, but but the things that they traded, there were already systems, hierarchy systems in Africa. Okay, brutal tribalism. Okay, and that is what allowed them to be able to partner off. And they were usually actually wouldn't sell sometimes people from their own tribe unless they were slaves or peasants or something like that. They would trade off other people of other tribes. Okay, tribalism is a huge problem in Africa. It's not race, tribalism. The Europeans, who are great strategists throughout history, if you know anything about the Europeans, if you read their history and the Spaniards and stuff like that, particularly the Europeans, great strategists, great exploiters of mankind. Understood this about when they needed other other types of slaves, when they realized certain types of slaves, especially in the Americans, when they realized certain types of peasants weren't working and for the crops and stuff like that. The idea and concept of going to Africa and Africa having a group of people who could work better with the elements that are in some of these countries that the slave trade participated in the slave trade. These Africans were able to work better in those specific things, specifically these type of groups that they passed off. My personal opinion is that, now that I listen to this young lady, I was thinking to myself, I said, wow, well, how special were the groups that you passed off? Because that so that Africans participated in, let me just say this, and I'm going to say this. Black people, we have got to get rid of our trauma. We've got to heal from our trauma of racism so that we can see people correctly. Africa was the continent of Africa along the coast. They participated in the slave trade. Some of those families are rich. Some families are rich now today in Africa because of the slave trade. Some tribals are rich because of the slave trade. They were willing participants. Maybe they didn't know the concept of race was going to be introduced to the slaves, but they certainly understood that it was not going to be a vacation. They understood it was a cruel system. They understood that they were pulling people from the only land they knew and families they knew and everything. They understood that. So let's stop trying to absolve Africa of not having any fault in the slave trade. It does us a disservice, and it does us a disservice to understanding who we are in terms of the diaspora. And it's hard for Black people because on one instance, we understand Black people, Black Americans among themselves, when Africans and different people from the diaspora come over here, we always say they treat us differently than them, or they do this and that. You know what I'm saying? They this and that. And I'm getting ready to say that Black Americans are the targets. And I'm going to talk about why they're the targets. And it's not to knock other groups. It's not saying we're better than, it's saying we're different. Africa should not be absolved from slavery. They participate. Okay. There's no excuse for participating in the enslavement of your own people. And not only did Africa participate, but after the slave trade, there is significant proof of how the continent becomes attacked after the slave trade. It just starts to go, it's never the same after the slave trade. Other groups are able to come in and be able to harvest off of their land where they can't almost. Other groups are mostly in power there. Okay. So the slave trade, I always say, you pass off some of your best people. Specifically, I go to the Americas. And I talk about Black America and the thing that Black America does not understand about themselves. If you understood what you did in the world, oh my God. I don't think you have a concept because the racism in America was so harsh. But yet they were selling you, as I always say, as a product around the world and what Blackness should look like. You're truly the great American export. So not only do these Africans in America that come to America and that are already, some people say here in America, some are already here, not only do they create for themselves a culture, but you begin to create the only things that are truly American. Black American spirituals, gospel, jazz, a lot of things in the arts. Then our creativity as far as the land and agriculture and medical and all kinds of things, and agriculture, architecture, all kinds of things that Black Americans did. And some of the things got stolen during slavery because we didn't have, when we come up with the idea, master own the idea. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that are the ground. How can I explain? These are the things that are the seeds planted that begin to make America a great country. Those slaves working for free and giving off their ideas, their energy, harnessing their energy for almost 300 years, then taking another 100 and some years to harness their energy, but still while mistreating them, are the seeds and the roots of a superpower. The seeds and the roots of the creative genius that starts to flow out of America in the 20th century and late 19th century. Black people are the seed for that. Black Americans are the seed for that. You get that creation of the creation of television, okay, radio, and with that, Hollywood becomes a major power. Most people don't think about what the structure that went in to what we are. And the seed of our ancestors' work and life energy. We have to stop giving that to Africa. Africa had nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, Africa didn't come send no ships over and didn't do nothing to save you. Even when Lincoln sends a group of slaves back. Remember Rich Leu, I talk about Rich Leu Dennis, who is the owner of Essence. He is from Liberia, okay? Liberia was already, now let me explain this. Liberia was already, had already people in it, in Africa. But Lincoln sends a bunch of slaves back after the Civil War and realizes, as they say, or at least that's what we've been led to believe, that it's too expensive to send the slaves back. So only a few get sent back. Okay. They create the land of the country of Liberia, which is how has had a war-torn history. It's a war-torn history. It's a lot to Liberia. Okay. But there's a group that stays here in America. And this group begins to use all that stuff that America's thrown at them: racism, segregation, terrorism, everything, and become this strong people. And that's not to diss other groups, because other groups have their history too. You have Jamaicans. Listen, and this doesn't mean, let me just say sidebar here. This doesn't mean I hate Africa. No, not at all. Far from it. I just want us to understand Black Americans have often not understood the African people and understood what we've glorified them and not really understood their participation in slavery, which is truth. And not understanding that there are different cultures and different groups on that continent in themselves. And the concept of race for them doesn't enter the talk until they enter America. Like, you'll hear lots of Africans online. You can go look at it right now saying, I didn't know about my Blackness until I came to America. Racism, their thing was, even though racism is a worldwide structure, but because they live in a country that's largely, that's colonization is a different beast in how it handles racism. Now, remember also too, that European countries and stuff ended slavery a lot earlier. And then remember something. Remember when Black American singers becoming really huge in America and stuff like that. What a lot of, even Josephine Baker, remember one of the things, the concepts, they wanted to move to Europe because they said they got treated a lot nicer in Europe. Not better. I mean, yeah, not, yeah, better. Doesn't mean that racism didn't exist, but they were treated better than in America, who still had heavy segregation, heavy this, heavy that. You know what I'm saying? Driving through the country with green books, shit like that. Okay. We got to understand that what's going on in the world. So even European countries, even though they had their own bouts of colonization and racism and different things, structures going on in a different way, they are courting Black American music, Black American lifestyle, everything. Even interesting is Africa. I always tell Black people, go back and listen to African music in the 1700s and stuff like that. While I think we carried the drum over in America, there's really not a lot of similarity, in my personal opinion, except for storytelling. It's because, and I think why, and we like to link it to Africa because we were trying to link to something. In America, I think Pan Africanism, Black people created Pan Africanism to try to connect to something, because we felt we were in a country where we felt lost. And so we would put everything on Africa. Oh, Africa, yeah, that's like that. But it's not. Africans are different, and there are different perspectives all throughout that continent. They have their different cultures and different vibes. They are not alike. Even here in the States, as Black Americans, we may be a big, group that all have that experience. Our ancestors have the experience of chattel slavery, but we're different in different parts of the country, right? But they are different by culture. Like, we have one culture, they have several different. Like, Tanzania is different from Kenya. I always say this: Kenya is different from South Africa. You know what I'm saying? So we don't understand those structures. So what this young lady was saying, I say specifically goes for Black Americans, because nobody has been targeted as much. Even they're using now people in the diaspora to come over here and help target Black Americans. The diaspora, like, when first thing they do when they come over and say, I've had plenty of people in the diaspora tell me their families have told them, don't hang with Black Americans, don't marry a Black American, don't do this. So while the concepts have went out of our culture of being rich and creative and stuff like that, there's also the concepts of that we're some sort of evil, right? Which is very interesting. Okay, so I saw this. Let me put this up here too. Let me look at this. I want you guys to look at this. This lady was talking on YouTube this week, and I want to share that too, if I can bring it up. You guys, let me see if I can find it here in my history. But it was a lady this week from Cameroon. I saw it on the show this week, and she was talking about Black Americans in Africa and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. If I can find it for y'all, I'm gonna find it. But I wanted to talk to y'all about this today, because I saw that on It's On Site, and I had some discussion with some Black people, and I'm gonna read to y'all what I said to them on what I said on the site. And we got some people's feathers ruffled. But let me see here. I can pull it up. I have it. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go on a quick break, and I'm going to come back with it, and we'll discuss more about my thoughts on Pan Africanism and in the Black in the Black community, and how we should look at it now. Okay, so I will be back in just a second. Let me give y'all a quick break. Yeah, some quick music. Let's be back in a moment. All right, you guys, I am back on the Carlotta Chat with show. Okay, so I found that clip I wanted you guys to see. This is from a show I like to watch on YouTube. It's Philip Scott's podcast. Philip Scott's podcast on YouTube. It's a very good podcast. He has very interesting things on there. Really good to watch. But I'm going to share some of his podcast and what this young lady from Cameroon said about Black America, Black Americans. And so we're gonna put this up here.
And I want you to hear exactly what she says and how she tells the truth about us as Black Americans.
So this message is for my fellow Africans. Oh yeah, make me come to the front, come to the front, come sit down well, the front. So this conversation that is going on around FBA boycotting African businesses. This conversation is annoying me. It overvexes me. The way, especially the way Africans have responded to it. So I thought I should come in here and say, a few things, give my own 2 cents into the issue. First, I'm very disappointed to see Africans going around, instead of it this being a time for them to listen and find out what this is about, they're going around insulting these people, insulting the Black Americans. I'm hearing things like they're lost and they don't have culture. Are you kidding me? Which people are lost and don't have culture? Growing up, do you want to tell me that growing up, wherever you grew up in Africa, you people were not trying to imitate Black Americans? The way they dress, their music, the way they sing, the way they dance. And then we have the audacity to sit here and say they don't have culture. When growing up, everybody wanted to be like them. Maybe it's only when we came to America that white supremacy has, brainwashed us to think that they're inferior. But no, they have culture, and their culture is actually worldwide. A lot of people steal their culture. And we say they are lost, that they don't know their history. Are you kidding me? I learned about my history from these people. I didn't know about any of the great African kingdoms. I didn't know about the greatness of our ancestors until I came here and learned from these people, from their history. I had to learn my history from them, and you have the audacity to sit here and say that, oh, they don't know their history. Do we know our history in Cameroon? Do we know our history in Africa? We learn from the history books of the white man that told us that we are lucky that they came here and saved us from ourselves. We don't even know our history. I had to learn it over here from African Americans.
And let me just say this, and this has gone on throughout the diaspora, okay, about Black Americans. Black Americans had the need to create Pan Africanism. Like I said, Pan Africanism, even though I think that's a largely flawed concept right now, doesn't mean I don't appreciate Africans all around the world, because Africans like this sister get it. She's an ally and she understands who we are, and we respect her for it, okay? But Pan-Africanism has generally hurt us. But one of the things, the concepts of Pan-Africanism was we glorified Africa. So Black Americans will learn so much about, especially the kingdoms of Africa, all kinds of things. And we begin to teach that stuff has, like, us, connecting us to it, give us some sort of self-esteem, not understanding we was building our own kingdom over here and Hollywood was selling it. Okay. So, and so we didn't understand what we didn't understand growing up in them hoods and them ghettos and stuff like that. A lot of Black people didn't understand that the little stuff we was making up, the thing creativeness and stuff was going all around the world. And Pan-Africanism was kind of erasing that. We were giving that credit to Africa, which we shouldn't have been. That credit is solely us. Okay. And we would often, and like she said, Africans sometimes didn't learn about their history and things about that until Pan-Africanism. Even Haiti. No. A lot of times, and even in a lot of times in America, now a lot of Haitians would be ashamed of Haiti, but it was when for color girls and things like that begin to come out, and people begin to talk about the rich history of Haiti and all those things, which was a part of the Pan-Africanism movement. then people stopped being ashamed because Black Americans were trying to latch on to something so we wouldn't be ashamed. We are actually the defiant ones. So she is really telling the truth on this. I love that she's saying this. And we influence places in Africa. You listen to their African music before us. I mean, before without Black American influence, we don't sound alike. Our pain, the pain that we experience in America influences our sound. And remember, we're from different parts, different places throughout as Black Americans. Black Americans become to morph into other things by the time after 50 years in America. So we are a universal people, to be honest. So yeah. So I love what this lady is saying. So I'm gonna let y'all hear a little
So
more.
please stop throwing such insults because they're not even real. We should be grateful. We're here because of them. We're here because of all the hard work they put, all the rights that they fought for, and we're coming here today to enjoy those rights that they fought for. We even get the benefits of those rights more than they who fought for the rights. And yet we have the audacity to hold our noses and say, oh, they're dumb, they're stupid, they're this or that, they're lazy, and they don't know their culture, they're lost. How dare us? How dare us? This is so annoying. In fact, when I look at, if you don't know the history of this country, please look it up. Because when I look at the history of this country, when I look at all the things that African Americans have gone through, the fact that they're still standing and they're still striving for a better country, the fact that they're still here is an absolute miracle. This is what I call the epitome of resilience. This is the epitome of resilience. They've been through so much, yet they continue to strive and to make it better. Whereas many of us in Africa have just kind of given up on progress. So just kind of, thank God it's changing a little bit now in some countries, but for the most part, a lot of people in African countries and the countries have given up on progress and just, bends to the will of the Western world.
Let me give her a hand clap on.
And shout out to Philip Scott podcast. We use that fair use, but thank him for that that moment because he always has great things on. Y'all check him out. He always has really good show going on, and he's really been really been a voice to me in this underground grassroots movement of Black people re-identifying, re-seeing themselves as Black Americans, and us understanding that we are not only do we have a culture, but because of the superpower we built in America, we are the culture. And that's not to belittle anyone from the diaspora. It's just saying what has happened. And that is why I am, we had this they had this little discussion on this on site, and I'm gonna read y'all some of this what I said about after this young lady. Let me see if I can find it here, y'all, so I can put it up. Okay. Oh, I got a lot of answers since then too. Okay, let me see.
I don't mean to say this like to be
okay, let's put her on pause. Okay. But so there's a discussion on here. I said, this is what I said at first. I said the war is deeper, but it's specifically aimed at Black Americans. The concept of racism was strengthened and perfected during chattel slavery in America. Not only that, but we are only the only ones where colonization was not used. The islands and some of Africa gets that. Racism and segregation becomes our problem. Also, Africa participated, except for South Africans. South Africans begin to experience the ideas of apartheid. Was it late 19th century or something? I have to look that up, or early 20th century. So the Europeans, uh, some of the Europeans tried to use American ideas of racism in South Africa during the apartheid movement. So that's another thing. Okay, but it says becomes our problem. Africa participated in the slave trade to their own demise. Look what happens to that continent after the slave trade. American slaves may be a little different, not better, because you are a lot of the reason why America becomes the most powerful nation on earth. No, I think it's even deeper than melanin. I have recently, especially the last few years, have thought it was deeper than melanin. Okay. And so some people answered back. One guy says, "Nah, sis, I think she's speaking on how far racism goes beyond slavery. Like why white people hated us for so long. Who who were we before slavery? You got to go way back and study history to understand that there is something very, very extraordinary about our race that dates back thousands of years back. This is from Way Black in Time. That's where this guy's from. Uh, uh, it's been a long time that our struggle has been the center of mankind since our great grandparents and so on. That's a long time to be fighting evil. Slave trades of African people go back to thousands of years ago. Okay, listen. Slavery was all across the planet thousands of years ago. This is where Pan Africans really start to make excuses for Africans, and that's what we did in America. That was our mistake. Pan Africanism and our roots of Pan Africanism, and how we idealize and idealize Africa is a problem, and it's something that we've got to get out of. He's idealizing Africa. Africa, this has not been a long time concept. Yes, Africa has had problems with race. Even in the Bible, you see a racial incident in the Bible with the African. Okay, but the racial concept is introduced as it becomes an old concept, but newly used in a much more different way in American chattel slavery, and no other group had that. Okay, so it isn't about your African grandparents and stuff like that. The only racism that they experienced is probably when they went outside of Africa and Rome and stuff like that, and often they would be getting at each other. It wasn't just like it's wrong with me mad at Greeks, it'd be all kind of stuff. Okay, but in terms of the continent of Africa being attacked, that doesn't come until like probably the 18 start to become like 1800s, late 1800s or something like that. I don't know. I have to look at that, but it's a fairly new concept when Africa gets attacked after the slave trade. Africa begins to see in my opinion, not all of the countries, but most of the countries' demise as a country where they're easily attacked from the outside as a continent. Okay. But Africa does not have a race problem at that time. There's no racial problem there. Blacks are there's a tribalist problem in Africa. That's how the slave trade was able to be facilitated. At first, Europeans came over looking for slaves and Spaniards, okay? And when they go look for slaves, what they don't pull out of their tribe first, unless they're peasants in the tribe or slaves in the tribe, they pull out of other tribes that they consider enemies. Read the history. Tribalism is what got us here, and we have tried to make up Africa. We say, well, they didn't know it was going to be this harsh. That's what I used to say. They knew exactly. They were harsh tribalists, especially the Dahomey tribe. Oh my God, read about them. When the Europeans wanted to end slavery, the Dahomey said, hell no, we making too much money. The Europeans were trying to have the little humanity they had, and the Dahomey was like, nope. So we cannot act like Africa did not have. This is a Pan-African concept that was brought on that we use to deal with our trauma. It's not based on any fact. It is something that we use to idealize Africa, and it was based on our trauma in America. And we begin to idealize a place that it's really actually fictional. This is as fictional as Wakanda. Okay. But I say the concept of racism and slavery was strengthened in America. They did not hate Africa. Africa was in partnership with the Europeans. They had and Spaniards. They had a working relationship, so much so that when the Europeans wanted to end slave trade, some Africans protested. The concept, which is the homie, and others, the concept of American racism, and they even had slaves on the African continent. Africans, you can see right now a documentary where Lupita Nyong'o talks to some of the people, black Africans that suffered from a form of slavery on their continent. It wasn't racism, though. It wasn't racism based. It was tribalist based. Black Americans faced chattel slavery and racism, which began to spread throughout the world because the Western world, the most powerful place in the Western world, was becoming America. Now, America is very interesting. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. But it says Europeans wanted to end slave trade. I said the concept was perfected during chattel slavery. You are welcome to look that up. Most Africans don't refer to skin color until they move to America. America was able to spread it through Hollywood, etc. Yes, America's able to spread ideas of us when the invention of television, radio, and stuff comes in. America starts to use certain things. Remember, Birth of a Nation. Oh, the power of the TV, the power of Hollywood. Listen, let me tell you something, black people. You got a kid out of looking at the attack on everybody. It's an attack on you specifically because you are something to the group in the diet. It's something that Black Americans are something to this group that came out of the diaspora that you're supposed to do. That's so powerful that they're trying to stop you from it. To the point that they will bring over people that they have colonized to try to get in with you and change your concepts and ideas and culture. They're trying to reunite you back with the continent that traded you off. That rejected you in the first place. And they're not only trying to do this to Black Americans, they're doing this throughout the diaspora. Globalism is a white man concept. Okay. So Black America, this attack is specifically aimed at you because you have been raised in the belly of the beast and you the one that just keep on coming. You won't stop. They done tried to crack bomb you. They tried to Jim Crow you. They tried to bomb your cities that you made, like that Cameroon lady said. They did so much to you. They are attacking you now with the diaspora and Africans. They are coming for you because you are the group that stood in the after your cities got bombed. It wasn't just Tulsa. We don't even talk about the countless other cities that Black Americans. Listen, I always tell the story about how they used to say, and you see this in some of the movies. And it's really, some in white America was crazy. There's always, but there were some white Americans that even though they was racist and stuff, they was crazy. But there are some concepts that during Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rosewood and other places that these people were so brutal. They was trying to have like a whole uprising of killing Blacks. That sometimes, and this is a good thing about some whites in America, even though they were still racist. Okay, They would stand at the end of their towns, the entryways to their towns, to stop those other white men from coming into the towns doing destructive things. And they say, hey, you ain't messing out, or our, they say something crazy, stuff like you ain't messing with our niggas and stuff like that. So sometimes in some weird ways they stop the brutality, you know what I'm saying, the brutality from happening. But this is a people that was survived, protected even by their enemies at times. Listen here, in a country that's a superpower, that's showing the world, the world, how the world sees America. I don't think we get what happened. I don't think we get how Pan Africanism threw us off of who we were. In America, we're experiencing horrific slavery, so much that Malcolm X tries to go over to Africa and say, hey, y'all need to bring charges up against, humane charges up against America. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The Africans didn't do it, but he tried, okay? Your people over here getting slaughtered. You know what I'm saying? They over here, they hanging up some trees, they doing all kind of crazy shit. But the world saw America prior to television. Prior to the advent of TV, the world sees America as what? The city on the hill, the great freedom, the concepts of freedom in America, the Constitution. All men are created equal, but America has this one terrible thing. It's this hypocrisy lying underneath it. Slavery, Jim Crow laws, all these things, all the things that America was preaching to the world, democracy, they were not practicing it. The dirty secret. Television during the civil rights movement begins to show a different America. It shows Black people sitting at counters where they're white only counters. These are these people who are preaching to the world democracy and trying to go over and get in other people's business through imperialism. And suddenly the world is looking at them and they're seeing these Black people who are harmless sitting at tables trying to get fed and trying to drink at water count. This country that is preaching democracy is spraying them with water hose, sicking dogs on them, bombing churches with little girls in the basement, hanging innocent men in the South. People have to take a green book to drive and see what's safe. This was just a few years ago, a few decades ago. And it's still some dangerous places in the United States. But you just keep coming. You Black Americans are different. You say, I don't care. We American and we ain't going nowhere and you're going to have to deal with it. We'll bring all this shit down. We'll protest you. We'll do whatever it takes. But couple things are straight. We ain't going back. Because ain't nothing to go back to because you done cut us off from that. And some of us was here before it was even going to. So, and you have created a different people by raping our mothers. And even sometimes our fathers. We're not going back. You are, listen, the attack has been you. And you are a force. You are a light to all of the world, to other Africans throughout the diaspora and the world that says, be defiant. Always read the system. We put our Blackness first in America. We ain't got no choice. We can't afford to be too much tribalist. We got about 10% of us, 10 to 20% to try to introduce that little tribalist shit, where that Bloods and Crips shit. That shit is now, the government broke that shit up. That shit's dead. Okay. And actually the Bloods and Crips and stuff really got started when you read the history of them. They were trying to protect the communities and they morphed into something ugly. Okay. During racism. Okay. They became its own little other thing. Okay. But for the most part, most Black Americans, 85 to 90% of us, we be on code. And when you come to America, your blackness is important for us because but we didn't understand that other groups, that's not important for them. The color of their skin, because they're being raised in different systems. And so that's why we be seeing strange things happening where we going, that ain't how we talk, that ain't how we move or whatever. But that's because they these white these supremacists understand that. So they're bringing people over here to try to break down you and break down your strength in America, who you are in America. And Pan Africanism, we can always love, listen, we gonna always love people all around the world. As a matter of fact, that's one of the places I want to go see, go to the Middle Passage. We can love Africa, we can love parts of Africa. There's nothing wrong with that, loving people. But we have to understand that we are not that. And they should not get credit for what we became in the United States. And that we are different cultures and different people. And that your system that you were raised in is not the same system that I come up in. When you think about America, the Black American system, black system. Even when we talk about the concepts of racism in America, I always laugh about Roosevelt and how they said rumors were how he never congratulated Jesse Owens when he won. That's how deep racism was in America when he won the race. But Hitler, they said, sent Jesse Owens a gift. So while America, oh my God, y'all got to get how deep this is and what you represent to America. That's why Dr. King called you the moral conscience of America. Ooh, Dr. King was deep in a lot of that ways, especially towards the end of his life. Because you were a reminder that you're not what you pretend to be. Adolf Hitler is a particularly interesting thing because World War II ends because America enters it and destroys Germany on the basis of freedom. So Hitler, if it's true, the story, because some people question whether it's true, but some people say it was very true, that Hitler sent a gift to Jesse. Hitler was don't get me wrong, Hitler was a racist, but Hitler was actually showing that America was at the time no better. You had white water fountains and black water fountains while you're going after Hitler. You had people being hung in the South. You had black people living in fear. And yet, this country that would have literally, Hitler would have literally marched all through Europe. Hitler was like was a crazy idiot Alexander the Great type. His idea was one world, two, even though he was a globalist, in my opinion. So people say Hitler was a nationalist. I say Hitler was a globalist because Hitler wasn't going to stop at Germany. And that's why America comes in and says, hold the fuck up, okay? But yet America's dealing with its own. Its own attack. America is dealing with its own racial policies. not and not just Germany. And so you are the people that remind them. That's why, listen, diaspora, this is why I want to say to my people in the diaspora, when you come to America, to understand that is why they sometimes will like you better. They feel like you're colonized. The Europeans did a great job in colonization. You letting you worship Europe, you assimilated well and stuff like that. You weren't, the harshness was different. Okay. And so when you come to America, they think, oh, it's easier to deal with you because you don't share the history that they have with us. Oh, they're not still holding us accountable. We can deal with them easier. We can manipulate them easier because they don't have the background. These people today are the former sons and daughters of the slaves that we mistreated, that we try to kill, we try to do everything to, and they won't die. And we tried everything. So now let's bring in their brothers and sisters from other cultures to try to knock down that thing. No, don't listen. Let me tell you, you got to understand, you're being used. When you get to America, you better find a Black American that understands the system. And there's a few of us now, don't get us wrong, it's a few of us that mess up, but it's a few of us that understand. But most Black America understands how this system is moved. Even though we've been, over the years, they've gradually torn us down. We are the weakest we've ever been. And part of that is because of Pan Africanism and our because we can't check, we have a hard time checking our brothers and sisters who come over from Africa, because Pan African is standing in the way and try to give us some delulu ideas about Africa, which is not true. And so we have to, Pan Africanism is saying, well, we all Black and we all alike. No, we're not. And their beef with America ain't the same as your beef. They might get some incidentals of racism, but the reason they don't accidentally hang an African in the South is because Black Americans fought that shit. And they still fighting it, because there still be some crazy stuff going on, okay? It still be people from the diaspora coming over here and accidentally taking a hit because they think you us. So it's best not to be against us. And it never works when you've been against us, because really the truth is, what that little young lady was talking about, my personal opinion, she's talking about the CIA and all them people, FBI too, everybody else, everybody tried to come at Black America. The superpower that we hold is that we got a God-given, God has gifted us with an extraordinary, like that lady said, a gift of resilience. And we tough. They created monsters during the slave trade. They thought they was creating us, they was softening us, but they wasn't doing nothing but making us more defiant. They wasn't doing nothing but making us more. Yes, and every year they've done everything. And yes, have we been weakened? Yes. And this is the greatest trick. Globalism is the greatest trick yet to Black America. It's one of the biggest things we have to overcome, because we've done ourselves in with the ideas of Pan Africanism. And so when we got Black people over here on TV pretending to cosplaying Black Americans and giving out ideas and claiming them to be Black Americans. We got politicians cosplaying Black Americans, claiming to speak out for the Black American rights, but they are not Black Americans, and they are speaking for something else. And so this is the greatest thing that we have ever had to fight. It's people who look like us, because we're so used to, in America and even in the past when Africans would come over before the 1965, and some people were over here, people know how to assimilate right in with us and our ideas and what we was doing. But now you got people over here showing up. They are operatives of the Democratic Party. We already had Black Americans, a small percentage of Black Americans who are sellout being that. Now we got other groups coming over here who are operatives and pretending to speak for us and be us, and then go and politic for us. It is one of the greatest issues that we have been up against. But listen, there has been a groundswell, and I give both credit, even though ADOS is the beginning of that. There has been a groundswell of Black Americans who are saying, nope, you're not doing that. The defiant ones coming through again, trying to save the day. Not only they are ADOS, but FBA, all these groups who are starting and saying, we are not going to let you erase us. You're not going to do it. And you're not going to speak for us if you haven't been in the belly of this beast where our ancestors are. And you're not going to get us to go back over to try to get us to go back over to countries that we're not familiar with. And listen, I don't have any problem with Africa reaching out to Black Americans. They should be reaching out with a reparations check too. Okay. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. But what we're not going to do is choose lessen ourselves to be a part of you. We are Americans. And our ancestors died fighting sometimes for this country when it was treating them like dirt. Trying to make the best happen for this country when it was treating them like it wasn't none, when it lied to Black people, everything. And so we're not going to be exploited by you coming showing up after 500 or 600 years talking about you know what's best for us. What the fuck? Who are you? No, Africans, we're not going to do that. And you shouldn't be wanting to do that either. I don't mind Africans having a place open, a door open, and hey, Black Americans, you're always welcome to our country. Y'all need to get together. Y'all got a lot of shit. Y'all got to get together. It's crazy over here. And Sierra, let me tell you, Sierra running around there to Benin, going to Benin, that's a trick too. All that stuff, they don't even know. Celebrities are always used. Understand, celebrities are so much in a bubble that they don't understand grassroots movements are happening under their feet. They're about to, when you look at a celebrity, most of them, not all of them, most of them are maybe 15, 20 years behind what's going on the ground, but they're used by powers that be to promote things. So Sierra up here dressed up in her Benin outfit and African outfit, she don't understand. A few years ago, Beyonce just got cussed out for culturally appropriation. For having that whole Black is King thing. Them Africans wore her ass out. That's why suddenly she's showing up on the doing the country music wearing American flag and shit. She could be Beyonce's what I said. Shit. Well, the Africans told her off. Okay. Sierra, and now globalism is trying to use Sierra to promote some sort of magical kingdom. Listen, like it's a magical Wakanda because she found out something. But Sierra, you got to understand the magical kingdom is your ancestors in Georgia and how your ancestors survived this beast. You need to wear something honoring your ancestors. Here in America, shit. Here come Benin some 500 years later, shit. Talking about, we got to get some citizenship. Where's a check? And you know what? And it's the greatness of your people. Benin didn't have, what is it, Benin? What is it, Benin is the name of the place? They didn't have nothing to do with your survival. She wearing it out, like wearing the headgear and stuff. Like she been there. Just because they slow, they don't be knowing. We be like, no. It's a beautiful thing, great that you learn your ancestry, but it wasn't them, that ancestry, it wasn't them that survived America. Some roots you got in Georgia and probably in down south, all through the South. Those people. You want to celebrate somebody, celebrate them. You need to quit trying to cut off our ancestors and go back to some magical Wakanda kingdom that don't exist. Now, there's nothing wrong with y'all celebrating Black people. There's nothing wrong with Black Americans. There's nothing wrong with us celebrating y'all. But we got to understand, but the problem with Black Americans is that we have a tendency sometimes to, like I said, idealize Africa and downplay our own people in the surviving of America. Africans didn't come help with that shit. Your ancestors did that. Your great-great-grandma and great-great-grandpa and them did that. Coming from different parts of Africa, different parts, different tribes and everything. They come here into America, can't even learn how to read or write. Gotta learn the language. Just try to fucking get what these white Europeans are saying to you. Like, you just trying to figure it out. Nobody learned English harder than the slave. Nobody trying to teach us how to speak English. Nobody having the different languages of what we was. We just was thrown the fuck in and find out how it worked. You better read about the slaves, what happened to the slaves. They was some of the most powerful people. You talk about symbolic kings and queens. You got nerves enough to be running around here with listen, it's okay. I'm okay with you celebrating and wearing African. I got some cute little African gear. I like to wear some cute little African clothes and stuff like that. But a lot of times it's funny when you got African friends, they'll tell you, they be like, that don't mean, that cloth don't mean nothing to us. What does that mean? Like one of my African friends asked me about the black, yellow, and green. I said, that's a Pan African thing. They said, oh, like a Pan African flag. They didn't even know. That's us trying to up everybody. Stop it. Celebrate your people. Celebrate your mama and papas and them down there and them on them sharecroppers and stuff. Doing that work, and being proud and sending generations through, despite the dysfunction of America, despite the harshness of America towards them. They survived so you could. How dare you be talking about back to Africa? They looking at you like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? They survived this thing so you could survive it. And you looking at them like you ashamed of them? That's why I say I'd never be ashamed of the slave. Ever. Ever. Symbolic kings and queens. Kings and queens in spirit. That's that little unusual thing that white girl talking about. Why are they trying to attack that? That's us. Okay. Why are they trying to attack that resilience, that crazy? And it's been seen in other parts of the diaspora. Haiti. Shit. The Haitians was like, fuck that. About the French, y'all ain't coming up here like that. We about to handle business, okay? I don't know what's happened since. But I'm just saying that you do not, how dare they ask you to do such? Okay. And I didn't like when I saw Sierra doing it, and I don't like doing it. I can see her saying, oh, I'm just celebrating this culture and my part of ancestry. But the biggest part of my ancestry I celebrate are those people, those roots in Georgia, where I'm from, who because they helped me survive. There's nothing about Benin or whatever they are. They did not help you, Sierra. They just want to give you these little things now to get a lot of good publicity It was a great thing. So probably for tourism, so people can come see. Other people try to be getting some citizenship. It's all like a like an advertisement thing, but but celebrities never get it till it's too late. Till they get it about 20 years later. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about Pan Africanism. I personally believe that Pan Africanism is a concept that is largely dead in its former understanding. Not dead if we as Black people come together and understand that we are from different places, different groups, different cultures, different this and that, and respect each other for it. Okay, respect each other for it and understand boundaries. Then Pan-Africanism could be a great thing redefined, but not in its current state. In its current state, it's working to hurt Black America. Okay. And that's just my opinion. Okay. But when I saw this little young lady talk about this, I knew when she said CIA and stuff like that, because there's only one group that's been constantly attacked by the CIA. In terms of the CIA, FBI in America, the group that's constantly attacked is Black Americans. And that's facts. J. Edgar Hoover, we was his biggest enemy. You'd think it would be some foreigners. Nope. And if that was his biggest enemy, there was a government behind him allowing him to be that. And that would be the American government who J. Edgar Hoover worked for. And CIA, in terms of the connections that Black Americans like Malcolm X would go overseas and try to make to get some help for Black Americans being treated inhumanely in the States, in their own country, in a country in which they fought for. That's when Muhammad Ali became a great hero around the world when he refused to go to war. He was like, he said, ain't the Chinese coming at me, ain't these people, it's you. You my enemy. And it's my home. So I say that is about you, Black America. Be proud of your history. Be proud of who you are. Man, you don't need listen, I love you, Africa, but we don't need that. We don't need you. We don't need you to define us. Well, our grandmas and great-grandmas, and I think about what going to my great-great-grandfather's farm in Wheatley. And I think about him sitting out on the porch, things he'd been through. I think about my great-great-grandmother, who my grandmother didn't know that well, who said that just life and after slavery was over, she was broken. Sometimes they say she'd run through the fields, like her nerves, everything, anxiety and stuff, just crazy. End up allegedly, we think in a crazy home, or she didn't do very well after that. But there was a lady, my great-great-grandfather married. We call her Mama Panky, and she wielded my grandmother's family. I even remember her when I was little, sitting me up in her chair, talking to me and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Wielded, it wasn't even her family, but wielded her family and became an ancestor to us. Those are the great stories. Overcoming racism, overcoming all the shit they done threw at us. Like, you better not be trying to talk about we was kings and queens up in Africa. No, we was kings and queens internally in America, even when we were slaves, baby. I don't know what they was in Africa. They was trading off their best. Matter of fact, Africa went down after the slave trade. Matter of fact, we might have been the kings and queens. Oh shit. I'm just saying, okay? Don't you dare be trying to give up who you are. Erasing yourself, forget and giving somebody some love who participated in a system that put you here. Come on, let's stop it. Okay. That's what I want to say. And this is no hate or shade to my other brothers and sisters in the diaspora. I understand that we have allies all through the diaspora. They're like that young lady, that beautiful lady, that Cameroon lady that I showed at the beginning of the of the show, and that she talked about how wonderful, how she learned so much by through Black Americans, and that how Black Americans, you can't say that if you lived in Africa growing up that Black America didn't affect you. I know that it did. I know Black America spread. Black America taught you how to it taught people how to dress, everything, because it was the cool kid on the block. Hollywood made it the cool kid through music, the arts, everything, and our struggle. And there are wonderful documentaries out about our struggle. I like, even the one of hip hop recently about hip hop, because people try to steal hip hop from us. The hip hop is a Black American concept. Now Tariq Nasheed, microphone check. I mean, come on. I mean, listen, there is nothing, listen, we powerful. Okay. And even when all of them are arguing, like I look at the leadership that we have now today in Black America. I mean, we have leadership completely, we leaders, and we're evolving into leaders each of ourselves, and not having one particular leader, but not the leadership through the Democratic Party. I'm talking about like the even though they argue with each other and stuff, but the Yvette Carnells, Antonio Moore's, Tariq Nasheed's, it's so many different people. I mean, who are really who sound the same, but kind of argue a little different concepts, but it's still pushing the collective. Oh, Professor Black and Jason. I mean, Professor. I forget what's the Professor. Not Professor Black. I forget Professor. Black Professor. I forget his name. Black Professor and Jason Black. I mean, so many powerful people pushing the narrative and saying no, the defiant ones. It's always the grassroots movement. It's always like, even in slavery, it was always the field nigga. You could never set the field nigga was like, not that happening. the field nigga was always dangerous. They still exist today. Still dangerous and defiant, and saying to America, no, we're not going to let you do that. You don't define us. We define us. You define us by our experience here, but we define that experience because we lived it and our ancestors lived it. So that's what I wanted to end on, that, you guys. So there's my talk on Pan Africanism. I hope you guys got that. I hope you enjoyed it or everything else. Okay, so now I got to get into some of this new stuff that y'all been asking me about to talk on. And let me see. Okay. I told y'all about the church that worships Beyonce a long time ago. I saw, it's not a church. It actually was a one-time thing that happened. Yes, it was disturbing at the time when it happened. It was very disturbing. But let me see. Hold on. You guys, hold on. Let me get you. Let me pull up here, guys. But let me put it here. Okay. Let me let y'all see this. This young man talks about it. Let me pull it up so y'all can see. Okay, y'all can't hear it. Y'all can't hear it. Okay. Make it so y'all can hear. Child, y'all know. Listen here. Okay.
Not your grandma's church. Sing as loud as you.
Okay. Okay, let me get y'all.
Church that worshipped her. But interesting enough, it popped up on my timeline out of nowhere. So let me show you guys a quick clip.
What your vision of the church is, but we have decided that no matter your race, your age, your gender, no matter who you love. You are the thing that God had in mind when she looked out over the world and said, it is good. So we don't do Frozen Chosen here. This is not your grandma's church. Sing as loud as you can. Dance, clap, love, live, understand this worship. You are welcome here.
Now that you're out of my life, I'm so much better. Thought that I'll be weak without you, but I'm stronger.
If you notice the shirt that she had on, it says, won't she do it? You know the phrase, won't he do it? When we're talking about God, well, they completely changed that to won't she do it? Now, who is the she they're talking about? Oh, well, let me show you.
Hundreds of folks are going to come here to witness the Beyonce Mass, bringing together secular music and a religious message to tell a story of empowerment for particularly women of color, but for anyone who happens to sing praises to the goddess herself, Beyonce.
Sing praises to the goddess herself, Beyonce. You can't make this type of stuff up, man. They stepped into a place where they love her music so much that they began to worship her. Let me show you what somebody who's supposed to be a priest said about Beyonce.
Out there.
Honestly, I think Beyonce is a better theologian than many of the pastors and priests in our church today. That is not an exaggeration.
This man put Beyonce on the same level as theologians, when Beyonce is representing a whole different religion.
Now, you know what? I be telling Beyonce the great philosopher sometimes, and I be kidding, but that's because of some of the words in her song. And it's not really her, really, you know what I'm saying? But listen, this church, it was one night, it was a mass, it was years ago, it was about 2 or 3 years ago. And yes, it was highly disturbing. If I was her, I would have been disturbed, okay? Because the one thing you don't want, listen, let me tell you something about God. God is a jealous God. Okay. And the one thing, that's why I always say for celebrity, when you're in the midst of being worshiped and idolized, you always got to make sure you keep a form of humanity to yourself. Don't let them idolize you. Don't let them. I love that about Taylor Swift. I don't know if Taylor Swift, sometimes I don't know what to believe about Taylor Swift. But one of the things I do like about Taylor Swift is that she started unraveling that energy around her. She started unraveling it. Like, let me try to, as much as she could. You do not play those God games, because God is a jealous God. God to destroy idols. Read about God in the Bible and idols. One of my favorite sermons of all time was by Brian Keith Williams at Azusa, and it was about idol worship and God. Brian Keith Williams. I think I got that sermon somewhere on tape somewhere, but boy, let me tell you something. That brother, he very powerful. You know what I'm saying? Very powerful. And I mean, he preached that thing. But let me tell you something. God don't like no idols. That's why. So when if you are a celebrity, you can't help all of it. Okay, but always make sure, especially with God, and that your relationship with God, that you creating a relationship that God, that you can put that energy back off to God, because you can't handle no worship. You a human. You ain't built for worship. You made in the image and likeness of God. You ain't God. Okay. And so when all that worship comes at you, it's almost can be in the form of an attack, because it's putting you under the strain of a God. But you can't help what famousness, or what you have to do is put it back to God. And that's always showing your humanity, always giving God praise, not dressing up like God and dressing up as a false deity. Because I can't even tell you what that goes on that. Dressing up as some deities. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. You got to be prayed up when you do some shit. Listen, I'm telling y'all, okay? Beyonce, in a little bit, I've seen some things about Beyonce, and Beyonce not only has that energy that she's having there, she has that with other celebrities that be worshiping her like that. She gotta break that out. My advice to Beyonce is, this is what I say. If somebody know Beyonce or something like that, from what I see, if she going through depression and sadness and stuff, tell her to break that God glass. Quit trying to look like a God. Trying to break that. Don't let people worship you. Try to be as regular as you can be. You're not regular. First of all, you got to understand that you're not regular because you've done something extraordinary. But in the midst of that extraordinariness, you got to understand that whatever is done that for you, hopefully it's not a deity, but if it's not a deity, that God has given you, allowed you the ability to do those things. And the praise has to go back to God. And you can't be creating some godly God narrative. You got to break those concepts. You can do interviews. Be imperfect. Quit trying to be hiding from a human experience. Fame does not exclude you from a human experience. It's another form of a human experience. And it's your thing to learn, to have to deal with your battle to deal with and learn God in the midst of. But don't be sitting up here. Don't keep using that shit. Don't use that. I'm just saying, you will find yourself falling apart from that. Okay. They worship will kill you because you can't handle worship. Okay. All right. And listen, I feel that's what happened with Michael Jackson. Partly of what happened, not all the way, but partly. Okay. You can only live in that. You have to normalize yourself. You are not a God. Okay. And if that means giving an interview and saying something imperfect, if that means a scandal that's making you not look so perfect, I mean, God forbid, but if it's that, but that's because you're human. All right. So moving on from that, let's see, what's the next thing we want to talk about? Okay, I'm gonna get to David Justice in a minute. Okay. Okay, people have been talking about Diddy this week and Diddy's post-release plans. I just believe his lawyer is out here talking. Sometimes lawyers don't know what to say. Diddy's probably talked to him personally and said certain things, that his wishes and stuff. But it says Diddy, this is from TMZ, Diddy's post-release plans, MSG or bust, okay? Diddy isn't done with the stage, and he's already planning a huge comeback performance at Madison Square Garden after his prison release, at least according to his lawyer. Diddy's lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, sat down with Jerica Duncan for his first interview since the highly publicized trial had already aired, where he opened up about Diddy's post-release plans. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys see this and what happened in this real quick. Okay, let's see.
What is it that Sean Combs wants people to know?
He wants people to know that I think that he has reflected on the blessings that he's been given, on the imperfections that I think he sees in himself. I think he wants to get out of jail, reestablish a loving, present relationship with all of his 7 children. He wants to take care of his mother. Does he want to get back into music? Does he want to get back into business? I think he's someone who is always going to strive to do something, exceptional and probably demanding and challenging. But I think the most demanding and challenging thing in front of him right now is to get back with his kids and get back with his mother and the people who love him and miss him.
So he's talked to you about getting back into music if he's released?
No. Honestly, he has not.
Okay.
One thing he said he's going to be back in Madison Square Garden.
He said that?
He did. He said to me he's going to be back in Madison Square Garden.
Doing what?
I guess being on stage, and I said, I'll be there.
Okay, I don't like that reporter. CBS reporters, including Gayle King, I never like the reactions. I don't like her look like what he gonna be doing. I mean, it is plenty of people who have done. First of all, he's a Scorpio. Let me just say this: he's a Scorpio. He has the power of reinvention if he does it the right way. Diddy can be back in Madison Square Garden. Let me tell you something. Let me just say this. Let me say something about Diddy real quick. Diddy, that's really good, nice. Okay, and I don't like Diddy and his behavior the last several years. I don't like his choices. I don't like him putting his hands on women. I don't like the shit he was doing. He was doing a bunch of foul shit, and that's why he's sitting up there right now. Even though the government, American government, you had no right to involve yourself in somebody's sex life. Those were consensual relationships. that you have tried to set precedence against for some strange reason and make it more than that. Okay. And by the way, sidebar, his kids, despite what Donald Trump said about not partnering Diddy, his people are apparently still talking to Donald Trump about partnering. Okay. So Donald Trump said he had made up his mind, but he's a Gemini. Okay. You don't know if he made up his mind or not. Okay. So now coming back to Diddy, let me tell you something so powerful about this young man. And I will have to say this. I said all the things I don't like. Okay. But Diddy wouldn't be the first woman beater in music. You do know that. Okay. I have some alleged stories about James Brown. That I knew a woman that used to play in my church who was in the movie, the James Brown movie. I mean, she wasn't in it, but her character, her person was in the movie as one of his girlfriends. And they used to say he used to whoop her ass. Tammy Terrell's mama said James Brown and David Ruffin was the reason Tammy Terrell had a brain aneurysm. Because they used to hit her in the head and kick her in the head so much. Allegedly. So these ain't the first woman beaters you mofos out here worship. Don't even get me to talk about some stories allegedly about more. None of these people were perfect, okay? Let me just say they in show business and they not perfect. And show business presents a whole other grain of hideous things to people who are not prepared to how their talent might move them into places they're not ready for, okay? Their character's not ready for. Diddy is no different. But what I will say about Diddy, different from all the rest, Diddy came into the entertainment business. I think he did a little dancing before then in a video or something, but Diddy's goal was always as an executive. The next thing about Diddy is Diddy was doing drugs, all these horrible things, and still running his empire. Now that shit went down. We did see how Bad Boy, that does explain how Bad Boy, y'all artists didn't. It might not have been him robbing y'all. It might have been that he was a drug addict. Okay. But that speaks to the power of him too. Because he was always reinventing himself in the midst of all that shit. Now, Diddy, I will say this to you. I hope that your transformation is a godly one and that you have prayed. And I know you ain't going to be perfect, but you have prayed and you are going to go to therapy when you get out here. Don't try to jump on the stage at Madison Square Garden, do a free concert and shit like that. Don't do that. That's what Chris Brown's ass is still out here dancing, singing. People done uplifting them. And I'm scared for Chris because I don't know if Chris ever got any help. And that's and when it's all ready to come down, if you ain't got no help, they gonna drag you. If you still singing and dancing without no character, no help, and the only people that's keeping you from doing stupid stuff is your team because they need to make money off of you, well, and they hiding shit, that's not good. Okay, and I don't know if that's the case with Chris Brown, but allegedly. Okay. Now, Diddy, you have a chance. You serve some jail time. You have a chance to come out here. If I'm you, I'm gonna just tell you what another Scorpio to Scorpio. The first thing I'm doing is getting therapy for me and my family. I'm going to a pastor I trust too and have some therapy with them too. And I'm talking about years of therapy, Diddy, because it's apparently something crazy going on, okay? And secondly, I am going to start privately giving to domestic violence shelters. I'm going to privately start to go and sit and listen to women who've had, I'm not going to call a news group to come see me do it. I'm going to go in there privately on my own and sit with domestic violence houses I'm going to put money up for domestic violence houses showing that I am changing. I never want to brutalize a woman. I don't want to put a woman through that I'm recognizing my flaws and I am trying to change the narrative around women. Now you ain't got to sound like this world sound, because this world tries to make it like women ain't got no responsibility in the shit they do. Cassie them definitely had some responsibility in that shit. They was after that money, in my personal opinion, and that's why they stayed around for your bullshit. But show that you are sorry for your part and how you treated them. And if you're sincere about that, Diddy, spend these next couple of years really working in that area. Really making it a love for your life to say, hey, you know what? I need to change. I was hitting on women. What's going on? I have some sort of hate. I was dehumanizing women in sexual acts, even though they was dehumanizing their damn self, but I was participating in it. Right? So how do I change the narrative and really change it within yourself? You'll be back in Madison Square Garden. I guarantee you. But you know you a Scorpio. So Scorpio's a karma. You the judge. You can't come back out here playing games and playing like you doing stuff, crazy stuff. You can't come back here and ignore your flaws. You got to really deeply work on it. Okay. And that's why I say about that. Diddy can be back on March. And he, if anybody, can be back in Madison Square Garden. Okay. He's different than the rest. I'm gonna tell y'all that now. I'm gonna tell y'all that. And he might have been a cruel and horrible person. I believe that as a Scorpio. I believe he can be. Scorpios, when they dark, we can go dark. But if he really want to change, he done got blessed. I mean, he done got talking about, listen here. And they still trying to get at him. Unless you done did some other stuff now. Sometimes other stuff come up. Okay. All right. Trump said some interesting things this week that I totally disagree with. About, let's put this here. I don't know what everything has been. Y'all, let me try to get this. Trying to get my little. Okay. All right, let me get y'all here. Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump, social media reacts to Trump's statement on undocumented farmers, saying he's giving them a pass to return legally. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. Wow. Okay. And you have, this is from It's On-Site Media. It says social media is not taking it lightly, reacting to Trump's recent statement about undocumented immigrant farmers. In an interview with CNBC, Trump revealed that the administration is working on a system that would allow these workers to return legally. According to him, immigrants are naturally suited for agricultural work. Wow. And aren't easy to replace. These people that you can't replace very easy, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work, and they've tried. We've tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. These are lies, okay? Black Americans for over 260 years, 280 years, 300 years, Black farmers have been around. Black farmers were the reason the crops grew from America's earliest conception to America being able to export great crops and stuff. That happened under Black Americans. Don't lie and say what we won't do. No, you've gotten us out of Black farming. What they've done to the Black farmer in America is shameful. Shameful. And for someone to try to talk us out of agriculture, for us to try to talk ourselves out of agriculture is ridiculous. And it is globalism. Jasmine Crockett was just talking this dumb shit few weeks ago. We ain't picking no cotton. I said, girl, you better shut up. There's some people out here pick some cotton for the right money. Not for $2 an hour, not for a quarter. And it's some Black farmers who want to grow and people who want to get back into agriculture. But the Black farmer has been iced out in America. So I'm gonna let y'all hear what this way. So what they're trying to do is exploit. This is showing you they're trying to exploit Mexicans. You're not slaves, but they're trying to exploit you through cheap labor. They know you're not the best farmer because we've seen farming in the last few years in America and what's happened. But anyway, they don't want to pay the other ones. They don't want to pay Black Americans. And a lot of Black Americans don't talk like this. If you read under its own site, they don't even know what's going on. Now, on one person said, are they going to pay them the legal minimum wage? That's what, yeah, that's what it says. It says, laughing my ass out to think, let's see, this man has never ever experienced genuine love. This isn't just him doing this though. Black people just think it's Trump. Trump is straight up. It was the Democrats trying to do this too. Jasmine Crockett just said a few weeks ago, Black people ain't going to pick no cotton. She really literally is failing to do, she don't want to do the work to help Black farmers. I think we, more than anything now, we should have more Black farmers. We should have more kids. We should be pointing more of our kids in the direction of agriculture. Because the power that food is going to have in the next 20 years is going to be massive. We need to be learning to grow and stuff like our ancestors did and understand this land like we used to. There are a few Black farmers left. And we should be going to all of them, celebrating them, trying to get, we should be understanding the power of owning farming. These Democrats and Republicans are trying to get you out of that for some reason. And that's because of the powers that are behind it. And this person, Lena, said, this country has always exploited labor. They have problem with immigrants coming here and breaking their backs working. Their actual problem is with the generation that comes after that. They are getting educated, gaining capital, buying land, and actually building better lives for themselves. They want to keep Black and brown people from getting educated. No, brown people, they don't care about you. They have a system they're probably using with your countries. Black Americans are something different. Okay. And we don't say the same thing. Okay. They just can't do slavery anymore. If they could do slavery anymore, they wouldn't need you. They'd tell you, send you back and call it a day. Okay. Let's see. Somebody says, saying now, here's unique butterfly, unique_butterfly, saying they are the only good for work on forms is crazy, but a lot of these Latinos voted for him. It's not that. I hope the immigrants understand how you think. It doesn't matter. They do. How Donald Trump thinks about the immigrants is what the immigrants have been coming over here doing. They've been coming over here working land. And here, listen, let me tell you something, especially Mexico. You have got to understand the power of the cartel. And even the cartel has started to reach into agriculture and stuff. I don't know. Black Americans are lost. The majority of you talking on some of these sites, you don't know. You're talking about hate for Trump. It's not Trump. It is, you have to fight for this has come from shame of your ancestors. When I heard Jasmine Crockett talking about, ain't nobody gonna pick no cotton no more. Well, your ancestors picked cotton. Even after slavery, some of them survived by still picking cotton. Fuck she talking about? There's no shame in that. There was no shame. It was no shame for them in the forced labor. It's shame for the white man in the forced labor and what he did to Black people. But it's no shame of our people coming over here doing what they had to do and living how they had to live and surviving it. There's no shame in that. And it's no shame today if we have to have a farm. Or we have to learn to pick cotton if they start paying us the right price. I don't think we understand where we're at. You're arguing about the wrong things. Let me let y'all hear what Donald Trump said. Wait a minute, hold on. You gotta get y'all. Okay.
look at them very differently, and maybe they belong here in the workforce?
I want to work with them, and in some cases, we're sending them back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people that you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it? These are very, in many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to hear you clearly.
These are lies of the globalist. Donald Trump, let me just say this right now, okay? This is why black slavery came into being. He just said something. Listen to it. If you know, you know in America. They actually weren't doing the work. As a matter of fact, even Mexicans had slaves, okay? That's another story, okay? Black slaves. Africans were brought into America because they worked well under the harsh conditions of slavery. They worked well under the harsh conditions in America, certain things in the fields and stuff like that. The people who couldn't do the work was you, white people who couldn't do the work. Black people have always been able to do the work. My great-great-grandfather was just doing the work. You ran the black farmers out of farming. And you ran people out of sharecropping through jealousy, through the fact that you could no longer control them, and then control the narrative and have a slave to work the crop. So now you're trying to replace them and trying to make these people, brown people, think that they better than us. And they have not been with agriculture. Agriculture in America, look what has happened to it since black people, the black farmer has literally died. Not literally died, but died symbolically in farming. Look at what's happened. It's not that the inner city don't want to do it. It's that you people have denied black farmers. It is a lie, Trump. You're lying to say the inner city, they tried. No, we succeeded. How the fuck do you think America became the agricultural tycoon it was in the early part of the 20th century? The black American sharecropper. And black Americans, we've got to stop this. That's because we don't know our history. We don't value us sometimes. We value every other piece of shit. And the Democrats are pushing the same shit. Okay? Because they're both white supremacists. They both don't like you. That's why you can't team up with nobody. Neither one of them like you. You only team up with them to get things done. You don't take them personally. You never take a politician personal. Because they can switch on you in 5 seconds. You never take, and it's not you talking about. A lot of black people are on its own site thing talking about on site web page talking about. Well, that's what the Hispanics get for voting for them anyway. Voting is not you're the only group that takes voting so personal. It's personal in terms of who you choose. These people do not. Politicians do not have a personal relationship with you. I don't care how black they act, how this and that. Their personal relationship is with money and the vote. That's how you always got to think of them. You can't think of them personal. You can't talk about, I love me some Jasmine Crockett honey because how she sounding, honey, she just this and that. That's on purpose. And there are people behind her. There are money and things funneling behind her. When you get into politics, we as black people, whether you're black, white, pink, purple, yellow, we do not take you seriously in terms of being friends and all that stuff. What we need to take seriously is how you gonna vote. We gonna put pressure on you. Well, you ain't got to talk to my language because it don't matter. All I'm seeing, making sure is, are you doing the work? Are you doing my work? What I'm putting pressure on you to do. The problem is that we got up here and start thinking a lot of these politicians is our friends. They Auntie Maxine getting them together. Ain't no auntie. That ain't your auntie. That's a politician. Barack, my forever president. Barack is a politician. He's not your personal friend. And that's why he was able to get away with not doing shit during the whole time he was in office for you. And then y'all was about to put Kamala up there and do the same fucking thing. Oh, mercy. And partly this is again Pan Africanism. Black Americans, most of the time when you talk to them, they don't even realize that when I say you ain't been in the White House yet, they like, what? We didn't have a black president. I said, no, you didn't. You had a black Kenyan president, a black American Kenyan president. You did not have a black American president who has been a descendant of slaves. What is that about? You think you ain't hated? You think you ain't targeted? You have, even by your own in those high places, they know better than to put themselves up there. They've been putting nothing but immigrants. Kamala Harris is a Jamaican and Asian. You have not had anybody that has shared your 500-year history put themselves up for president. A successful campaign. Black people, we need to be going off. This is a slap in the face to the black farmer who has been hurt through many years, the last 100 years in America, last 200 years in America, last 300, all American history. Nobody has gotten it hard as a black farmer. And for them to try to ice us out of a thing and talk about, well, see, the immigrants do this naturally. That's what we're going to bring them back over there. No, the fuck you not. That's a job. And that we are people who are interested in agriculture or take it, but you're going to pay us for it. See, they don't want to empower you. They'd rather empower an immigrant. Y'all better start catching game. Okay? Crazy. And if they'll try to do what they'll try to do next and say, okay, well, we'll bring back the black farmer. The Democrats will do that. And they'll be giving black farming to Haitians, everybody else, and claiming it's you. Haitians, Dominicans, everybody, they black. See, they black. You got some black farmers. And then you look at the background and don't be you. Because it's something about empowering you and the country in which you built. It's crazy. They don't want to do it. They fight you. And they both agree with this. This isn't just Donald Trump. Why do you think that the Democrats were allowing them to come in here in such droves? They don't want to pay you. The Democrats is on the side of the white supremacy. They're like, they don't want to empower you. They get you insulted about, oh, look, he said black jobs. Well, there is black jobs in America. There has just been traditionally, unfortunately, but what we've got to learn to do is empower us to see what the problem is the black job. What black people used to do in America, they even after slavery, they had to pay black people to clean houses. They had to pay black people to do this and to have cleaning. So they didn't want to pay black people what they were worth anymore. So what they did is start bringing in illegal immigrants who was desperate to come over to the country because the conditions in their countries are so fucked up. And so what they did is start bringing them over and say, okay, we'll pay them about $2 an hour. They're easier to deal with than the Negroes. And we'll give them some education and all this stuff, and everything. Them being educated is much different than the Negroes. See, we done did a lot to these American Negroes. If the American Negroes get educated and get power like us, well, who knows? They might try to do us in, which we are not them. We are one of the most forgiving people on the planet. But that's they fear. And that's why these illegal immigrants are coming over here, even from the diaspora. They rather deal with them than you. That's crazy. You like, no, because some of your families got cleaning services. Some of your grandmas and mamas and them put kids through school through cleaning services they own. Built wealth on some of that stuff. That was black jobs. And they know it. And so that's the reason for the influx of illegal immigration. Because they got them in a kind of not a slavery position, but a position that is cheap labor, which is a different thing. And they desperate to get out they other countries. A lot of them are fleers. So America's got these greedy corporations and these greedy powers that be that are heavily invested in American labor force do not want to pay American. Now it's getting so white Americans too. White Americans are seeing it as a problem. That's why Donald Trump saying, we don't want to do the work. Do you know how many white people are going to go off on Donald Trump about that? You know how many white people probably going to get their own forms that don't like hearing that, what they just heard? And we ain't even going to mention the secret of these individuals that's been going around buying up forming powerful individuals and the Chinese buying American forming. What the fuck you talking about? Donald Trump sound crazy. And there is not a black caucus to challenge him because the black caucus have been subdued by the other half of white supremacy, which is the white liberal Democrats. So they can't go in. They even talking crazy. We ain't picking no cotton. And so they don't even know what they're talking about. So he has no pressure on him. Ridiculous. Okay. Let's talk about, is David Justice back in these streets? Where David been? Boy, David Justice, long time no hear. Remember, David Justice used to be fun. Boy, when Holly Berry married him back in the day, baby, I was like, girl, jeez. He was a honey back then. Now, this man, the rumors I used to hear about David Justice, allegedly, and how he used to just run all up and down these streets on Holly Berry. Run around these streets on the beautiful day. That girl, and that Holly Berry's still beautiful. Look, that's how bad Holly Berry is. Holly Berry is still fine. Okay. And I heard Holly Berry was a little touched. She would probably admit she was a little touched and crazy. She actually did talk about her father, the relationship with her father, and how that helped her, how she chose certain men and stuff like this. But this man, David Justice, is just had it in for Holly Berry this week. Okay, he's coming out. This is a chick who loved this man. She did nothing in public to harm him, except he was a cheater. A lot of people that wasn't a narrative Holly Berry put out there. David Justice. It was a lot of women running around at the time. I even knew a woman that told me about how David Justice was trying to holler at her at a club. I mean, at a bar or something like that. And she was like, aren't you married to such and such? And he was acting like so. Okay. I used to hear the stories allegedly about David Justice up these streets. Okay. But Holly Berry was so in love with this man. I think out of more than any of the men that she's ever talked about in public, David Justice broke her the fuck up. She said she went, I think, was that the story when she said she went in the garage, allegedly, this is a story she told. I'm not sure if I got all the details right or something. I'm just reimagining it, retelling it from what I can remember. But she said she went into a car in her garage with her dogs or something. Or she went in the garage. She was going to kill herself because this man had left her. That Leo, listen, she a Leo. Okay. That Leo, like, fuck, she was in love. Okay. Now listen to this mofo that she was in love with. Holly Berry, I'm gonna just say some things. God, let me tell you something, girl. Thank God you didn't complete the mission in the garage or do nothing to yourself. Because, honey, sometimes you gotta look back and you be like, geez, you start shouting. You did. I look back at some of the exes, I'll be like, woo, look at God, look at God. I was hurt. I was in bed for days. And I look at him now and I be like, look at Jesus, look at God was like, girl, I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to stop you. The future don't look so bright. Let me save your ass right now. Now, David Justice was the most successful, one of the biggest baseball players of his time, right, at that time. He actually, him and Holly Berry getting together was like a kind of like a Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe type of thing, okay? But Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn, of course, were way bigger, but it was similar, okay? But listen here, okay? Holly Berry, sometimes you got to do a shout. You got to be like, thank you, Lord. Okay? Let's take a listen at David Justice, talk about his, and shout out to David Justice for giving us his side of the story. He deserves to tell his side of the story, to be fair. Okay, so let's pay and listen to David Justice. Okay,
her after knowing me for 5 months, and I mean, I said okay, but because I couldn't say no.
I mean, yeah, who's gonna say no at that time?
And I said okay. But I don't know if my heart was really into it.
Right.
But I didn't want to make her feel bad and say no, or like I was just in the moment. It caught me off guard. But I was like, cool, we getting along, we vibing. We're only 5 months in, we still in the honeymoon state. And then all of a sudden that followed up. I met Hallie in May of 1992. So you talking about, then we got married January 1st, 1993.
Damn.
Right. And but we spent a lot of time apart because she was doing movies in this country, that country. And we honestly, we probably could have made it if I knew about therapy. If we knew about therapy, we probably could have made it, because we never had any major issues like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that because I was young, and had only been in, honestly, one real relationship before her. My knowledge and my understanding, my wisdom around relationships just wasn't vast.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at my mom, and a wife at that time should cook, clean,
traditional,
and then I'm thinking, okay, if we have kids, is this the woman I want to have kids with and build a family with? And at that time, as a young guy, she don't cook, don't clean, don't really seem like motherly. And then we start having issues. Listen, we never I'll say this. We never had any issues about other women, other men. I was never tripping when. Well, I was tripping one time when she.
Oh no, I got one time I was tripping.
At one time, because I didn't understand it, when we were out to lunch in L.A. Now, I'm from Cincinnati, man. I ain't even in L.A. scene like that. And she see an actor that she worked with one time, and he came in, hey, kissed him on the lips.
Oh.
What are we doing around here?
Was he European or American?
Yeah, American.
What the fuck is going on here?
Oh, so I know this is going to be a conversation. So get home and I ask about that. Oh, that's what we do in LA. Oh, okay then. So now her manager and I used to go to this restaurant all the time. Had a young lady at the front seat us all the time. We went there so much, she became so friendly. We got the hugging her every time we come in. Hey, how you doing? Just regular hug. Take Hallie and his wife to lunch one time. I said, Hallie, this is such and such. This is Hallie, right? Hallie looked at that girl, saw how fine she was. Man, she gave her She gave her one of them, like barely touched her hand, right? Just played her crazy. I was embarrassed, bro. I was embarrassed. I was like, but wait, hold on. I just hugged the girl.
Right.
You kissed this dude. Saying to me, hey, she asked me to marry her after knowing me for 5 months.
Okay, so I always wondered, a lot of times famous women, a lot of men try to take down certain types of women. Like they feel that's too. A lot of times there is true. That's not all men, but there are some men out here who have a thing about taking down women. I felt that Joe DiMaggio was trying to do that to Marilyn Monroe. Joe DiMaggio knew Marilyn Monroe's ass was a sex symbol and an actress and everything. And he never, when she married him, he never merged with her concept of her lifestyle. As a matter of fact, I think he was trying to break Marilyn. That's just my personal opinion. And looking back at their relationship, some people look at Joe DiMaggio as a hero. I don't. I look at Joe DiMaggio as alleged during that time. Some people alleged that Joe DiMaggio would abuse Marilyn sometimes. And not only that, he expected Marilyn to cook, clean, wash. Marilyn was a superstar. Marilyn wasn't cooking and cleaning and washing no dishes. She was a worldwide actress. But he was trying to domesticate Marilyn Monroe. Like, you knew what it was when you married her. And yes, there was going to be some levels of domestication to Marilyn, because Marilyn wanted to have children. She wanted to have a family. But she needed to have it in the concept of her world. And he needed to have it in the concept of his world, because they were both in sports and show business. But instead, he was very mean to her. And then at the end of her life, I think she get with Joe DiMaggio once or twice, or I think it was twice or something. But at the end of her life, he's the one that came through, and he paid for the funeral and everything. And people say he kept everyone out of her funeral. He alienated all of Marilyn's people from Hollywood and stuff, because he felt like they ruined her life. But I don't think that's the reason he alienated Marilyn in death. I think it was his last exercise of control over Marilyn. Like, I could never break you down and domesticate you. I could never stop you from loving, from being the actress and singer. I never got to break you down. So I'm going to break you down in death. I'm going to isolate all these people from you in death. I never thought that was a good thing. I never thought he was good about that. Maybe somebody else tell me some more to the story if you see someone else in the story. But the stories I've heard over the years about Marilyn Monroe and how he did her, never liked it. Okay. Now, David Justice talking about he was very young at the time. I respect that. And David, it's interesting now to hear David say that he thinks that they could have made it. And it's sad, because she loved that man. Nah, the motherfucker. I'd love to hear her in an interview talk about this shit. Girl, I love to hear Gary talk. I love to hear her answer this, because that mofo, she loved her some David Justice. Out of all the men, I felt David Justice was like the one that she was like, the fuck, I'm about to, women got one. It's one to come through. That'll mess your ass up. Okay, if there was a twin flame up in this joint, it might have been David Justice. I'm sorry. What's his name? Man? Down here in hell, dude. What's his name? What's it down here in hell, dude? Van Hunt. Okay, Van Hunt. If there were, to me, just in that time, the way she that man almost broke her. Okay, he almost, listen here. Holly Berry had a minute. Okay, she did. Who was she with after him? She was with, she wasn't with Chris, she was with Christopher Williams before him. And then it was David Justice. And then it was, who was the next one? Eric Benet. Even Eric Benet, you didn't even break her as much. And nah, that motherfucker David Justice took her. The way she acted about David Justice, whoo-hoo. And I don't blame her, because David was, Eric was fine, but David was on another level at that time. Okay, when he's playing for the Braves. Now, he said there were no other women involved. That ain't what I heard, but allegedly. I heard you was a cheater, pumpkin eater. But anyway, Holly Berry might disagree with that. I would like to hear what she says about that. But David I could see why it would probably have been trouble for him being so young and being and not understanding her purpose and her lifestyle. And were you a man trying to break her down? Because she was at that time, she was super famous. I mean, this was the beginning of the height, the prime of her career. And now she's become legend. She's still super famous. She's still a legend now. But at that time, that's when it was the hype was going on, right? And so, and everybody considered her like the most beautiful thing ever. So, I mean, like, was he trying to break her? Because you talking about you expected her to cook and clean, and she's a worldwide actress, and you were saying, well, I didn't see her having my babies. Well, she's an actress. And I had somebody do this. Let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you. I had a person I was dating years ago when I was at ORU. This is what he told me. My major has always been Christian, like it was Christian education and theater. Theater's always been in it. First, it was theater and broadcast, right? And then I took it to theater and Christian education. But it always remained theater. So this guy called himself, he was going to be a preacher. Yeah, my friend loves to talk about bestie, one of my besties. Shout out to Tiffy. She loves to talk about this. To this day, she always be laughing. But we were dating. I really like this guy. And this guy says to me, I don't know if I could take you seriously as a wife. This is what he says to me, right? Because at this time in school, I'm working like little behind the scenes stuff in theater. I'm doing some little play here and there, doing stuff. And he's like, because if you're going to be an actress, you are anything in that world of theater stuff, you probably break my church up. Just seeing all kind of shit, like horrible shit, like try to get me to change where I'm doing. And I remember my friend who was so blunt at the time, and she was such a great friend. She said, I remember one day we was all eating lunch together. We all went out to lunch together. And because Christian people at ORU, we used to do this. We all talked together about issues and problems. And she's like, well, what's going on with y'all or something? He said, well, I can't see her being such and such, because of this and that. She said, well, let me tell you one thing, such and such. You ain't got to worry about that because you ain't no preacher and you ain't going to have no church. My friend was crazy, and she still talks about this to this day. And years later, she sees the guy at the thing, and she said, She said, this don't look like no church. right. But anyway, me and the guy eventually it ends because of his concept, his idea. And really, I think, and when I look back at it, maybe a sense of trying to break me out of that and see how far I would go to what I like, the creative arts and stuff like that, to just end that. You know what I'm saying? And my friend always laughs about it. She is like, that was the stupidest shit. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes people are out here trying to change you. They might like you, but they may not like your look and like your aesthetic, but they might not like you as a person. And sometimes males, not only men, but women too, set out to, it's not change, but it can be, because if you love each other, you give each other advice, you give each other on ways you can be better and stuff like that, right? But sometimes people they don't really like you and they really want to change you into some version of what they like. I have ran into that a lot. Okay. So, I'm wondering if that's what Halle Berry was experiencing with somebody like David Justice, because he was a hot baseball player at the time. David Justice was the Derek Jeter of his day. Okay. David Justice was the man back then. Okay. So yeah, I mean, very interesting. So he also says another thing in this interview. I'm going to play that. What else he talks about. Let me see, where are we on, y'all? What's
the thing that probably I would say hurt the most is Halle had a relationship with a gentleman who hit her on the side of the head, and so she lost some hearing, but she never made him public. And I'm not gonna make him public because I ain't gonna do it like that. I know who it is. But for people to think Oh, it had to be David Justice because the only person they associated her with was me. Now, she said it was a former boyfriend. I'm not a former boyfriend. I was her husband.
Right.
That's different.
Big difference.
But literally from 96 until even today, sometimes I'll see something on social media. Well, he hit her in the head. And I'm like, oh, that's just a quick Google search.
Yeah.
Do a quick Google search. That girl ain't never said I hit her in the head. But one thing I didn't like is, but she let you think that.
Right.
She let the world think it.
That's tough.
She didn't come out and say, oh, no, it wasn't David. But I'm not going to say who it was, but it wasn't him. No, she let the world think that it was me. And that I never appreciated with her. I thought she was dead wrong for that. I thought she should have handled that better. And I always say it like this, man. If I was so bad, you would think she would keep my name out of her mouth. She would be so happy I left, right? If I was so bad as a husband, she'd be like, whoa, I'm so glad he left me, boy. Because it ain't like it was hard for her to find a next dude, right? She kept my name in her mouth because she wanted to be with me. She wanted us to work out. You know what I mean? And I know now that I've gotten a lot older and I look back, I mean, it's been a long time since I look back on that situation, but when I probably got probably like in my 30s, and I was more mature, and I look back on that situation, and I'm like, you know, that girl really, really did love me, you know, and I can see why she would be so mad at me. Because imagine if you really love somebody and they tell you they want to break up and there ain't nothing you can say to get them back. That's had to be tough on her. I just wasn't emotionally mature at that age to really truly understand the magnitude of how she was really feeling. And I would have did things different back then too. I wouldn't have just, man, literally when I left her, I didn't even talk to her no more. Like, wow, that is so, that like, I didn't even ease out. Hey, I don't want to be together no more. Gone.
Jeez.
You see? I mean, I could have massaged that better, Matt. I could have. So back to the point of one thing that probably I would say hurt the most is.
Okay, so listen, I don't think she's responsible for that. And I don't think she had to clear up shit because she never made it sound like you ever. It's some dummies that just don't listen. Okay. She always said it was a former boyfriend. She always said it was someone in Hollywood that was powerful, which a lot of us already know who it was. Okay. And it wasn't Chris. Chris said the same thing. Christopher Williams said he didn't like it. Now, Christopher got a right to say that because Christopher was a boyfriend. Okay. And he was in Hollywood. David was a part of the sports world. Which is a little bit a part of Hollywood too, but it's part of the sports world. Chris was a part of Hollywood in terms of music and the major parts of Hollywood, right? So I understood Chris being upset about it. I don't understand David Justice because she never said a husband. She said a former boyfriend. And most people know who that is. The reason why she can't hear in 80% of her hearing. I mean, she lost 80% of her hearing in one ear, okay? Now, what I do like about what David Justice says is that now he said she couldn't keep her name out your mouth. Fuck you. No, don't try to make her like she's just going around just David. There was people asking her about the relationship. Y'all had such a big race. I don't think you understood how big y'all was at that time. It was a big deal. And y'all look cute together. And everybody thought y'all was a thing. Everybody thought y'all was going to have these pretty babies. Everybody thought y'all was going to be together and stuff like that. And suddenly it was over. And then, listen, David, I did not hear nice things about you. Now, I heard you was a cheater, pumpkin eater. Now, you said it wasn't no other women, but I ain't right. But I don't know. Hey, maybe it was rumors, okay? Allegedly. Now, what and see Halle Berry now him telling that kissing on the mouth story, I believe that because remember what happened to what's that man that did that with Eric Benet? That dude, same dude, she just played this year with him with his wife. She kissed him on the lips in front of his wife, like he did her in front of her husband years ago. So she's that kissing on the lip thing is a thing. Okay, but listen, I see where he's trying to get at. You know, I'm glad he recognized, but it's a simple apology to her. All you have to do is say, Holly, if you're listening right now, because sometimes some women just need I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for the way I treat you. I didn't see it. And listen, that girl went on, whatever you did to her, motherfucker, she went on to become the first, even though I hate the movie she became it off of, she went on to become the first Black woman to win the Oscar, a biracial woman. She became the first, she became huge, making $20 million a film after your ass. Holly Berry started stomping the fucking yards. Okay? She left no crumbs behind. Okay? Yes, she talked about you because I think she wanted you to share that with her. I straight up do. I will say that he ain't lying on that. When he looked back at that, you say that woman really loved you. That was a woman that really loves you. I really believe that. I really believe that was a woman. And listen, you can only do what you want to say. You at the time, what it, you know what I'm saying? It is. I mean, some men don't get it. You can have, a lot of times, most women, there are a lot of women who talk about the men they fell in love with and who done like a David Justice and just rejected them. Holly Berry was distraught after that. He ain't lying on her on that. How much she couldn't keep his name out? No, because she was distraught. She was hurting. And I often believe that David Justice was the beginning of, it was a point in to Holly Berry, I think's life that she needed to see, because I think that she was still so affected by her father and what happened with her father. And she talks about that a lot. And I think that was a clear pattern that she needed to see in her relationships, even though her relationships substantially got a little worse after that. My personal opinion, they were still repeating the same patterns, except for now, it does seem like, will say this, Van Hunt seems this seems like mature love. It's something about meeting somebody in your 40s and 50s. And this is a proof you can find love in your 40s and 50s and 60s and stuff like that. It's about something about that mature love that happens with two people when they meet each other. And at those times, it's just something different. And I'm hoping the best for her and Van Hunt, because it feels like a more of a stable thing for Holly Berry, not a passionate thing. Like, now it's a great thing when you can find passion and all that. It seems passionate. I ain't saying it ain't passionate. Okay. I'm saying it feels because Holly Berry likes some creative dudes. Okay. So I think that it feels like a passionate, a mature relationship, not like the fiery things that happen in your 20s, like the passion, like something what she had with David Justice. Okay. Man, like he said, they didn't have no counseling or nothing like that. So you see the difference. But was it his way of apologizing to Holly Berry? Probably. I just think simply, I'm sorry would suffice. He should have said that too. I'm sorry that I didn't handle that right as a man. I didn't know what you were. I didn't understand I didn't understand how the power you was carrying. Sometimes, men, even if you don't like the women, or if that's not the woman you want to be with, and let me just say this. And I remember I had a girl at ORU tell me I was dating this guy at ORU. And this girl, we used to, when we were at Oral Roberts, my floor, all the girls on my floor used to come to me with their problems and stuff like that, talk to me and stuff like that. And so I remember one day my chaplain goes to me, she says, the chaplain on our floor, she comes to me, she said, you might as well be me, because they come to you all the time. And I started laughing. I said, girl, I want them chaplain problems. But this girl was on the floor too, and she used to date this guy I was dating, right? God did her, from what I heard, massively wrong, okay? And so, but by the time he starts dating me, we're great. We're good friends and we're dating. And he's talked to me one time about how he's acted in former relationships. And I told him, I said, well, you know what most women want to feel is they don't want to hear, it's not even a matter of you coming back or something like that. I said, but sometimes it's a genuine, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't do I didn't know what I was doing at the time, or I didn't know what that brings healing. The girl shows up in my room. I'm thinking she's there to talk to me about something, because a lot of girls will come and talk to me. So I said, come on, and talk to her. And And I have food and stuff. I talk to people, and she said, I want to say something to you. And I said, yeah. She said, I know you're dating such and such. And I said, oh yes, here and there, stuff like that. And she was like, no, I just want to say that just the beautiful change that he's had from dating you. And I said, well, she said, because I got so much healing. She said, because he apologized to me the other day for what he did in the relationship. I said, oh my God. She said, I just want to thank you because he told me that you had talked to him and you told him sometimes a woman just wants an apology. And that is what sometimes it is. And that girl got so much healing. She said, now me to do this thing, me and stay messing around, dating or whatever. But the apology that he gave her was powerful to her, that powerful, that she came and told me this is an effect. And that's really sometimes what years, and I think I'm glad that I, as a woman, that I didn't ignore that and think I was better, like, oh, than an old girlfriend, or, what I'm saying, get that help. Sometimes, yeah, you got a little feeling and stuff like that. But I was, and being a Scorpio, because I can be, a trip, so, but I was like, nah, you need to apologize to certain people, because he had a few of them. Right? So sometimes women just want genuine apologies. They don't need you to come and try to make up something. A lot of times men get caught back up in the relationship because they kind of, they felt bad. They just, sometimes people just need to genuinely, like, hey, I didn't get this, or just because I didn't have feelings anymore, or just because I was moving on, it didn't give me the right to do that, or it didn't give me the right to treat you that way. And the same thing, men are different, but it's the same thing. Sometimes it's just a genuine apology that presents healing for people. And to me, that's what David Justice could have done here. But I think Holly Berry's already got it. It looked like Van Hunt's over there doing healing, okay? Doing the work of God. Okay, so that was interesting. I thought that was interesting this week. Let me see what else I'm going to talk about. Okay, this one. Talked about Trump. Okay, I don't even want to talk about Offset talking about he's never witnessed a woman go up after he walked away from the relationship. Child, we don't even got. Is that something that we even really gotta take seriously? No, no, we don't. We ain't even gotta entertain that. Okay, we just don't. Okay, we just don't. All right. Okay, millennials had a little cute thing up this week talking about why millennials have been through the most. What says they've been through the most. This is true. This is so true. They break down why millennials have been through the most and are the strongest generation. Now, I say the strongest generation was generations before the slavery generations, because we ain't went through no shit. And you know what I said. But the strongest generation out of the 4 new generations, from Generation X down to Millennials and Z's, is definitely X. Okay, but the other, other than that, and Generation X for a lot of reasons, because Generation X is when the American dream starts to unravel. Okay, so let's play this is the millennials talking. Okay.
We done been through a lot.
The millennials be going through it.
9/11. That shit started. We was like 7 or 8.
It started early.
Bitch, we was young, stressed out. Them towers was getting hit.
It
bitch.
started early. Okay, that Enron.
Oh Lord,
COVID.
Bro, we done lived through it all.
The recession back right before Obama got elected.
They threw the shoe at George Bush. That was a big deal then, though. Bill Clinton got caught with Monica. We was stressed.
We low key, literally the strongest soldiers. Like, we've had the most scandal.
The Olympics. Y'all remember when Marion Jones admitted she was juicing? Oh, talk about pain. We lost Michael.
Look so quote unquote young, but we got strongest soldiers.
We done been through a lot.
The millennials be going through.
The older millennials, yes, but even the older millennials came through at the tail end of the crack era, and lots of things. Okay, it got easier for you. And because I've lived through that particular generation, I know that to be true. The crack era, if you were born, if you like I said on here, if you was unless you went through the crack era and Ronald Reagan, your problems was light. Okay, listen. By the time we growing up in that 70s and 80s babies, 70s and 80s babies. No, 70s and 70, 1970. I'm gonna go back 1968 to 1980. That's as far as I'm gonna go. Understands that energy. Okay, but even 80 less than the 70s babies. Okay, but 19, that is a very hard time. Anytime after 80 though, you got to experience some things, a little bit remnants of the end of the crack era, a little bit remnants of that, but and coming out of the civil rights era. See, we were the first generation out of the civil rights era. Okay. So, and it's why y'all kind of we had the best music. We had the best, a lot of things because we were the last generation where our parents controlled the music. Our parents controlled the energy. I often say it was the prime of Black Americans, and I think we'll have another prime coming soon. I think we do for another one, prime time in our era. But the prime time for Black Americans, in my personal opinion, was the 20th century. The 20th century, the 20th century for Black people, especially that period of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, boy, and 90s, child, that 40 years, we was popping. Okay, and we been popping. No, I can't even say that. I got to go back a few, because I got to go back to the Harlem Renaissance. Oh man, we was popping the whole we was popping the whole 20th century. I can't even lie to y'all. I mean, the Black people, Black Americans was doing their thing. Yes, we coming back. Okay, we getting it together. Okay, but we was popping. Okay, and so I cannot say that, but that part of that generation X, who is the smallest generation, sandwiched between those two big generations, baby boomers and millennials, we saw the decline of America. And, we're the group that, we're seeing our music is we're defining actually where we live at to the world. You got Public Enemy, NWA, you got all these groups coming out and starting to talk about the issues in inner city America. It's just a different time. And we're becoming adults in that thing. Okay, we're becoming adults. If you're born in the 90s, you were certainly on the tail end of it by the 2000s coming in. 90, you know what I'm saying? You're a millennial that got to see, but you're not really. You're not. It's the tail end of it. But 90, we're growing up in the 90s. After the remnants, we get to see the after effects of the crack era and the before effects. There was a time in Black America, all throughout Black America, in urban cities, where we all used to be scared to sit on our porch. Somebody come down on the porch and come down the street with the lights off. We was all running in the house, ducking. Because we was like, these mugs got to do a drive-by. Oh my God. Years ago, one time on my block, somebody, because we had some crazy people on the block, and they tried to do a drive-by on somebody. And I don't know what happened. It was God. They gun jammed. People was outside laughing. I don't know why people was outside laughing. They was crazy. Back in those days, Black people was crazy. People was like, and they ran out down the street for the dudes. And this other house ran in and got their guns because they was about to get them. And they like, your gun in jam? But they could have killed somebody. The innocent, because Negroes didn't know how to shoot. Never have, never could. Especially in the 80s, they was getting them overly powerful guns and they would shoot. They never shot their target. They was always shooting an innocent kid or an innocent grandma cooking some macaroni in her house. An innocent and LA, and don't, we ain't even gonna talk about the liberal cities in the United States. Woo! LA was a literal war. Like it was their inner cities was like a little war zone, and it was only 20% of people. I used to go to LA in the 80s, and it was only a little portion of the hood. I mean, actually, I remember going when I was a kid to go into Watts, and it was really certain parts of Watts was nice, especially in the 70s and the 80s. And then it's that 20% that just start fucking shit up. And then when I mentioned when I went to the Clinton Library was very interesting. I always tell people, if you get a chance to go to Arkansas, to go to the Clinton Library, because Bill Clinton was around for some of this era. I want to go to the Reagan Library too next, but Bill Clinton, there's a small portion about during gang violence and stuff. And Bill Clinton is in Bill Clinton's library, they talk about how gangs, this is pretty deep, from Black foreign groups, like because Black foreign groups were immigrating to America. So a lot of Black Americans would get blamed for a lot of these things that immigrant gangs was doing. There was other immigrant gangs coming into America, upping the drug trade during that time. And it was more dangerous with them because they were from third world countries. Shit that Black Americans ain't never seen. I think like group called from Jamaica, called some kind of posse. I forget what it was called, but the Clintons talk about this. It's a small thing. So we don't understand how illegal immigration, not illegal, just illegal, but legal immigration, and the immigrating of certain foreign groups. And this is not to dog people in the diaspora, but certain people in the diaspora, they was bringing in foreign gangs and stuff like that. How that affected Black America, who was already heavily urbanized. Even on Joe Rogan, one of the guys, I wish I could find this thing. Let me see if I can find it for y'all. Joe Rogan had a gang specialist on talking about how certain groups were used to kill the American gang. Let's see if I can find it, y'all, for y'all to see this. Okay, this is it. I'm going to let y'all hear this. Okay, this was from 2 years ago. Musk, Rogan, let's see, Joe Rogan, geopolitical analyst Peter Zayon, as they delve into the fascinating and sometimes frightening world of, let's see, I'm going to tell you. In this thought-provoking discussion, they explore the topic of how Mexican cartels have successfully eliminated many American gangs and what impact this has had on both countries. And it's not just Mexican cartels that were doing it. They also immigrated people, gangs from other Black parts of the diaspora, Jamaica, Haiti, that were far more brutal than Black Americans had ever been, okay? Because they're coming from third world countries, okay? So let's take a listen to this. I want y'all to hear this so y'all can know. See, this is what I'm just trying to tell y'all. There's always been some sort of attack. But
that happening with Mexico? Mexico is, to be perfectly honest, really early in this process. The challenge we're seeing in Mexico right now is that the air quotes good cartel, the one that saw drugs as a business, is being broken up. If you remember El Chapo,
That's the good cartel?
Yeah, remember El Chapo, Sinaloa cartel?
Yeah.
He thought of himself as a Korean conglomerate president. So it's like, we smuggle drugs. That's our business. You don't mess with things that mess with the business. So you don't trip the old lady. You don't steal her purse. You don't shoot at the cops. These are people who live where we operate. We want them to be on our side. So maybe even throw a party every once in a while. You focus on the business. We got El Chapo. We removed him from circulation. The guy who died or got captured yesterday was his son, one of the Los Chapitos. And his cartel, as a result, is fracturing because his leadership's gone. The replacement cartel is Jalisco New Generation. They're led by a former Mexican military officer who thinks that rather than don't shit where you sleep so that the people on your side, whenever you move into a town, you shoot it up. You do kick over the old lady. You do take her purse. You make the people scared of you. That's the point of this. Drug running is a side gig. We are here to be powerful. And drug running is just one of the ways we make that happen. And he has taken the fight to every cartel and the Mexican government. And they're in the process of trying to break into the United States.
Break in what? Economically?
Yeah. El Chapo and the Sinaloa became the largest drug trafficking organization in America under the Obama administration. And one of the reasons our birth rate went down so far so fast is they basically either co-opted or killed American gangs. So they killed the people who were doing the killing. Not a lot of Americans got killed after that. All of the other cartels control the access points to the United States, but Jalisco New Generation now is challenging every single one of them, trying to break through. And if they do, and they bring their business acumen, if you will, north of the border, they're going to start killing white chicks named Sheila in Phoenix. And then we're going to have a very different conversation in this country about the drug war and about trade with Mexico.
So when you say that they've killed the gangs, like in what way? Because that is an interesting thing that you don't hear a lot about American gangs anymore.
Well, that's because they're not there to the same degree. So the Sinaloa, they co-opted the Hispanic gangs, especially the Mexican gangs, because there wasn't a language barrier there. And they really targeted and gutted a lot of the African-American gangs. They took over drug smuggling and distribution from them to deny them income, and then they just shot a lot of people.
And when did this take place?
That happened during the 2000s. It was pretty much completed by the time we got to 2013.
But we weren't really kind of this narrative didn't really go around. This is not something that I've heard before.
Well, yeah, look at the murder.
It's making sense.
Yeah,
when you're
look at the violent crime rates in the United States. They've been trending down really significantly since about 2004, and the drop from 2004 to roughly 2014 was amazing. That's largely Sinaloa.
So they have silently sort of invaded and taken over the distribution and taken over the gang activities.
Right. And this is El Chapo's cartel that is now getting broken up. And as soon as you have more players, more violence is going to happen, especially against one another. And that's one of the reasons that the murder rate in Mexico has skyrocketed in the last 3 years.
Do you know who Ed Calderon? Have you ever followed Ed Manifesto on Instagram? He used to work for the government in Mexico and, to fight off the cartels. And now he's made his way to America and he does a great job of highlighting all this stuff. But one of the things he was showing is they were using 50 caliber rifles to try to shoot down planes yesterday.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have.
I mean, what the fuck is going on over there? I mean, it seems like we concentrate so much on these conflicts that are happening all around the world, and there's a massive one happening in a place where we could walk to.
It's the disintegration of the Sinaloa cartel. So back in 2019, the Los Chapitos, I can't remember his name. I want to say an Octavian. That's not it, because that's a girl's name. Anyway, it begins with an O. He was captured in 2019, and they weren't able to get him out of town fast enough. So all of his homies basically got together with assault weapons and descended upon the police units that did it, and they were forced to let the guy go.
Yeah, I remember that.
This time, they were able to get him to the airport fast enough, and he's already in Mexico City. So there was a clash, but not nearly to the degree that we had a couple of years back.
Look at this here.
Oh, yeah. One of the things...
This is a guy shooting at airplanes, which is fucking bonkers. I mean, what kind of airplanes are those?
Those are probably civilian.
And why is he doing this?
We're seeing a change in heart of the administration in Mexico. Lopez Obrador, for the first couple of years of his presidency, followed what he called hugs, not drugs. The idea that if we don't bother the cartels, they'll just be nice. Yeah, so that didn't work out. And now he's taken a much more direct approach. And since most of the security services at the local level have been infiltrated by the cartels, he's tapped the military to do it. So the military is now taking active steps against the cartels. And if you are in a cartel, that means you need heavier weaponry to fight back. And that's why the 50 cals and things like them are starting to pop up a lot more.
And so what is the Mexican strategy in terms of utilizing the military and dealing with the cartels? What are they trying to do?
I would argue that the AMLO administration isn't to the point yet that they have a strategy, but they realize that the murder rate has reached the point that hugs not drugs is no longer a viable option. And so they're trying to militarize the equation in the hopes that the Mexican military is more capable than this or that cartel.
Okay, so I find that really interesting. I just wanted to play a little of that from Joe Rogan, how they specifically targeted Black American gangs. Okay, they were sent in here to target, and they weren't the only ones, I believe. Okay, and listen, that tells you that the targeting of Black people has been for a minute. Okay, very interesting. All right, so yeah, I wanted to say that. Okay, and I want to answer somebody too on its own site who wrote me. Let me say this, okay? What did she say? Oh, y'all be having so much to say, child. Y'all be having a lot, child. Okay, let me put okay. This lady okay, this lady okay. If I can get it, y'all. Hold on. Okay. Way black. Hmm. Okay, way black in time, okay? She the kid uh I said to her, I said most of Africa participated in the slave trade to their own demise. You now want the people you traded off for spices and color materials to help you without Africans admitting fault for anything. Truth, tribalism got the slave trade going in Africa. The self-hate was evident. The Europeans and Spaniards exploited it. Look at the genocide in Rwandan genocide in the Catholic Church. That's a whole nother story, okay? The Catholic priests manipulated what was already there. Europeans are strategists, not gods. Okay, and then she says to me, since most of what you just said is untrue, that the rhetoric that Africans wanted to be a part of their own demise. No, I did not say that. I said to their own demise. They see people got to read. Okay, I said to their own demise. They participated in their slave trade. Okay, that Africans wanted to be part of their own demise. Do you understand how heavy that is? Your people are being tortured, raped, and subjected to treatment and that of a dog with rabies. Why would a group of people who have had riches, gold, and other resources to uphold an empire fall into their own demise, like willingly? Please go and look up why the trans-Saharan Red Sea and Indian Ocean slave trades, ma'am, have a ma'am, I did look that up. That's history. You cannot deny Africans' participation in slavery. That's Pan-African talk. Pan-African always what we did in what Black Americans did in Pan-African. I used to be a Pan-African. I know what Pan-African is. We used to always act like it wasn't that bad. Well, they didn't understand it was going to be that bad. No, they thought you were their undesirables. They traded off their undesirables. Other tribes, other people, they didn't trade off. It was deals made, and they went and snatched sometimes people from other tribes, from people from their own tribe that they considered undesirables to that time, those places, continent. It was a tribalist problem. Okay, they wasn't thinking about their empire and gold and all that shit. They was thinking that you wasn't part. They was thinking you was a probably, if you got traded during the slave trade, you was probably considered an undesirable in Africa. Or another tribe targeted you to trade. That is facts. Okay. And they knew their people were being raped, tortured, and done all the stuff for 400. They knew their people was in slavery, man, for 260 years and still didn't do shit. They didn't send no boats over here. They didn't send nobody come get your ass. They didn't send nobody come get your ass. As a matter of fact, you can read in some of the slave trade accounts, slavery accounts, slaves accounts, where they had accidentally, where Europeans had got so crazy that they had just started taking Africans off the coast without the king's permissions. Pretty soon they just started exploiting and coming over there themselves and just grabbing people. And one time they accidentally, a few times they accidentally grabbed royalty in the grabbed royalty and brought them over into the Americans. And you see where the kings were writing the slave traders, asking them to free their children. They accidentally and they would send them back. So don't go there, okay? Don't go there. Africa was very participant in a slave trade. They didn't know what was going to happen from it, but they understood for 200 and some years what was going on. You're telling me that Africa did not understand what was happening in the Americas, the continent of Africa, and even during the civil rights movement? You're delusional. They knew what was happening. As a matter of fact, they didn't treat you well either. That's why they traded you. Quit trying to romanticize that. Oh, we didn't know. I used to do that. They knew. And if they didn't know, they found out. Slavery lasted almost 300 years in America. And then it was another 100 years of discrimination, segregation, and Jim Crow. Stop the foolishness. That's Pan African talk. Okay. All right. So okay, this was crazy. I saw this the other day, and I don't know if I talked about this on the other show or not. I don't think I did. But African women drag Black Americans, calling them lazy.
Busting their behinds to get degrees, become doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that. So when Africans look at African Americans, they're like, these people have credit cards. We don't even have credit cards. These people are not even working, and we come here and we busting our asses. Now we're doing this. We're now 6 figures, and these people have all these years to become all these great. You guys don't know. When Africans come to America, they're busting their behinds to get degrees, become doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that. So when Africans look at African Americans, they're like, Africa, are you from?
I'm from America. That's what we're saying. Just like a Jamaica, just like no, hold on. Just like somebody from Jamaica, they're not going to say what country in Africa they're from. Somebody in Haiti is not going to say what country from. They're going to say they're Haitian
because they were closer from what is it called, the triangular slave
but
trade.
Then when you ask them that question, they're not going to have a definitive answer.
That's because they're already in their own community of Caribbeans, the Haitians, Jamaicans. They're all like in one bowl. But
Black Americans are in their own bowl as well.
The reason why I asked that, that's why Africans feel that way, because they feel like because you don't know where you come from, which is not by fault by Africans.
We know where we come from. We come from America, just like Jamaicans come from Jamaica. Like, what is the difference?
I think it's just more relatable from an African to see another African and be like, oh, where you come from? Oh, I'm from Ghana. I'm from this place. And they know so much about their culture because they do this.
Let me stop this. Black Americans, this is your fault, what she's saying. This is Pan Africanism's fault. Because what you made Africa believe is that they were some sort of participant in your survival in America, and they were not. And you because you were always up in Africa and you was always doing this, so you made some sort of imaginary connection to Africa, and you also described yourself, yeah, we lost, we this and that, when we wasn't lost. We realizing that we wasn't lost. Okay. So that's Pan Africanism that has done this and got her talking like that. Africa ain't got her talking like that. That's what she's learned from Pan Africanism.
So I feel like that's why they feel like you know so much about your culture in Africa. So that's what they're like, well, Americans, Africa, are you from? Don't know, because honestly, you guys don't know. When Africans come to America, they're busting their behinds to get degrees, become doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that. So when Africans look at African Americans, they're like, these people have credit cards. We don't even have credit cards. These people are not even working, and we come here and we busting our asses. And we're considering not just Africans, everybody, all the other countries are considering y'all as being lazy, because it's like, why aren't y'all getting these? Like, why y'all not busting y'all asses? Y'all should be better than the Chinese. This is, if y'all Americans, y'all should be better than America. Y'all should be better than Chinese people who coming over here.
But we,
ruling
and the thing is,
Indians.
My question is,
the thing is-
what are the opportunities that you think that we have over
That's
you
different,
guys?
right?
The-
Yeah.
Well, you have a lot more opportunity. You have a country behind you. Black Americans have a country that has worked to sabotage them at every turn. So that's very different, and bring you over because they think you're easier to deal with. They think you're not going to, it's not about what they lazy. That's rhetoric that you have been given about us, but you also are dressing like us, looking like us, acting like us. Now, here's two things America did. They sold you us as a product, as cool and everything, but at the same time, and we made even your country, your continent cool. Okay, but at the same time, they're selling you also that we're thugs and all these other things. Okay. Yeah, it's really crazy. Black, it's funny. And this is what I said on this page. Okay, but this, I'm gonna read this what this other lady said, okay, but which was, I thought was really good. I said, and a lot of people liked it too. I said, it is wild that the children of slave traders are now in America trying to shame the children of the slaves their people betrayed. Okay. You come unaware of the history of Black Americans in America, and you buy into the narrative of your ancestor slave trading partners, the Europeans sold you. Now you traded your best to the same partner, left your continent in shambles. Now here you are, some 500 to 6 years later, trying to talk shit and steal our inheritance. Make it make sense. It doesn't, because now you're over here talking about why y'all being lazy. Well, hold on, sis. What the fuck is going on in your country? What you not doing? What since why you over here worried about us? Why you ain't over there making your place of your country better? Why couldn't you make it in your country? You couldn't make, and which is a false narrative about about foreigners somewhat doing better than us. And there's a study out there, okay, about that. But and there's a reason why sometimes we don't do as well. So there's a lot to that. But why didn't your mama and them stand 10 toes down there in Nigeria? Why didn't they stand 10 times down in Cameroon? Now they didn't stay 10 toes down. What the heck is going on there? Were you coming over here trying to talk shit? Talking about what y'all people? You know what people are saying about Africa? It's a good millions and millions of y'all compared to Europeans and the Chinese. How the fuck y'all let the Europeans and the Chinese and the Indians come over there and run your shit and run your resources? So every time you ask me that, I'm gonna ask you how the fuck you let them run your resources, and you here in America trying to steal what you think belong to us and talking about he's doing better than you. That don't even make no sense. Don't let nobody tell you this. They do better than you. They the Caribbean. No, don't let nobody tell you that. Then if you did so much better, what the fuck you doing here? Why you couldn't make that same sort of magic in Jamaica? Why you couldn't make that same sort of magic in Haiti, since you so much better than the collective here? Let them do that to y'all. Don't let them play these games. That's game playing, okay? Don't let them play it. And this, I want to say to CC 2008, she said something beautiful. She says, it's Ceci 2008. She said, as an African, I want no part in any device of rhetoric. I deeply admire my Black American cousins. I'm proud of them, their survival and everything they've overcome. Their culture, music, and resilience are just inspiring. They're legendary. If you truly understood centuries of psychological warfare and systematic oppression that Black people have endured in America, you let them rest. You cannot compare experiences. There are too many different historical and structural factors at play. Shout out to this sister, okay? Shout out to her. True. Okay? True. When you come over to Black Americans should be respected, not talked about. Well, what you see, you better, we did doing better than you. No, not really, because you had to run over here into our territory to get done what you think you need to get done. So crazy. Okay, so yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, so that's one I want to address that. All right, y'all. Okay, so we are coming. What do we got? Did we have a relationship one? I think we had a. Let me see, y'all. We got a relationship y'all wanted me to see. Okay. Oh, there was an interesting thing about why they're not making superstars anymore. Okay. Okay. I'll save that for last. But the music industry hates superstars. I thought this was really interesting. So I'm going to play this for you guys so you guys can hear this. Okay. This was from this is from Sean Stockman Official. It says, firstly, shout out to at Demiza and Chris Gotti 187. If you don't think this is why songs are created and music consumed the way that they are, you're missing the big picture. So here's what he's saying. Okay, let's take.
Labels don't want any more superstars.
Because of the label's lack of participation in creating that star, they don't want to support you the way they used to create that superstar, because you're going to use that power against them.
That is Chris Gotti, music executive most known for founding Murder Inc. Records in 1999 with his brother Irv Gotti. But what he is talking about is backed up by data by the big three music labels, Universal, Sony, and Warner Music Group. Over the last 5 years, the big three have spent well over $25 billion on scouting talent. Because of social media and all the one-hit wonders who come and go daily, it all makes sense. But it goes even deeper. Lucian Grange talked about how powerful it can be managing a superstar, saying it shrinks their royalty rates by 35 to 50%. So yes, it's great to have a star, but that means less money for the business. And the data shows year over year that the top 10 songs take less and less market share, meaning there's so much music and content out there that the biggest stars aren't as big from a number standpoint as they used to be. So labels are leaning towards having more semi-successful artists over a few powerful ones. In other words, they want to retain more control. For example, Halsey exposed Universal in 2022 that they wouldn't release her new song until they faked a viral TikTok before releasing. And Halsey sold over 165 million records, going more into the point they don't care if you're a star, they want control. Full circle back to Drake, he got paid $400 million from Universal, and the rumor is he paid them back in less than a year and a half, making the next contract negotiation a lot harder on Universal, which is why they got the whole entertainment industry to go against them, and it still didn't work. Because of the day and age we live in and the lack of talent actually being developed, this could be the last era of music with true superstars.
Okay, I do believe that I could see the the chiming out of a whole bunch of people. I mean, you know, like they used to do to write off tax write-offs and stuff like that. It's so many people coming out one after the other. And then also, I also believe it's putting false narrative, false superstars out, overhyped superstars out. That they know are overhyped, but making them the face of something to pretend that they have superstars. Anytime I see superstars in the industry, I don't think people talking about Drake paid somebody back and all that stuff like that. Drake is an entity of into himself. It's not just Drake there. There's other powers that be behind Drake. You don't get to be Drake without some power, okay? And you don't get to be a Beyonce. So sometimes I think the biggest stars are highly controlled, okay? I agree with this somewhat. And I do believe that that's a part of the thing. The record labels have, you know, in a sense, they've ate themselves up, huh? And some artists have too, you know. It's just hard out here being an artist nowadays. It's really hard to be a singer. You really have to go back to doing it for the love of music. I mean, like, the business part is always going to be a part of it, but you really have to love what you do to be out there and doing anything at this point. You know what I'm saying? You just really got to love singing and are doing, even in other creative art forms. Okay. It's a lot. This is a time when there are so many people harnessing off of creatives. They always have. Creatives have always been people have harnessed energy off of them. But here's what I think was happening with the new set of creatives. And What I mean from the new set of creators, especially from Generation X. Creatives have always harnessed too, but I believe that the Generation X celebrity and creatives have gotten into harvesting energy themselves and perhaps doing all sorts of magic and spell work and shit to be famous and stuff like that. They've also ruined their own shit in some ways. And I think it's a spiritual aspect of what's happening to them also. That they would be having to be now, you can't just make a record and lay back and sit and hope that record does well. Or you're being the perpetual, now you're perpetually having to dance and work and work and work and move and dance and party and poop. You're constantly, you're never getting rest in order to make money. And that to me seems from that's not everybody, but for some people, it feels like that there's been energy harvested that you didn't understand the price what was going to be for it. And the price you paid was dearly. Okay. And now the industry has become an industry of you literally have to be out live now all the time. It's sad. Okay. And I think that's other work going on. Like I said, I think that's more than just business. I think that can be results of deals made spiritually. Okay. So you guys, let me take a quick break. I think I have one more story left. I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to come back and do that last story for y'all. Okay. One more story. All right. We'll be out. All right. So give y'all the be right back sign. And I'll be back in a moment. Okay. All right, you guys. Our last story is a funny one. I thought it was funny. I saw it on TikTok, I think. Or was it Instagram? It was one of them, child. We'll see in a minute here. Let's see. But it's very funny. It's a woman talking about her experience with a threesome that I thought was hilarious. And I thought that we should take a listen to her. Her name is Taz Angels Studios FL, Taz Angels Studio FL. Okay. It says, read caption. She says, slow day at the office, was trying to see the best way to explain this crazy scenario with gymnast, professional pole dancer, bitch I brought home once. Well, here's the video. Anyway, sometimes women are going to get competitive during threesomes. You just got to enjoy the talent show at that point. Okay. So check and listen to her. This is so funny. Okay. So
be careful who you pick to bring home for your threesome, because a lot of these bitches are vicious and devious. Remember, I brought one of these bitches home. This is before I was healed and everything like that. And this bitch, she was going all the fuck out. This bitch gonna turn around and tell Taz, damn, what's up with her? She can't hang. And then the fucked up shit about it was that she was right. I couldn't hang. I was shook. I'm thinking like I'm putting it on, I'm showing out and everything like this. I'm thinking, yeah, she can't keep up. The bitch come out of the fucking bathroom and it was kind of dark. I had been drinking and all I seen was feet in the air. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I thought I was tripping. The bitch had walked out of the fucking bathroom on a handstand and started sucking his dick. I was shook. Hey, Rod, is this?
Oh my God. This is why you don't do three. Oh my God. Well, of course you're going to be shook. This is a lesson. One lady goes, I would have cried. Did you cry? Oh my God. That's at the point where you like, the fuck? This is why you do not. No. Ladies, no to threesomes. No and no. Terrible. Oh my God. But I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna leave y'all with that visual. God, that's terrible. Oh my God. Like, really? It's debauchery is at an all-time high, even though they say we're having less sex nowadays, but debauchery is at an all-time high. So you have to be careful in walking into things like threesomes. Oh God, what's wrong with the world? What is going on with us? All right, you guys, thank you for hanging out with me like you do every week. Okay, guys, this is probably gonna be the last show for a while. I am, unless there's something big that comes out, I am done for a minute. When we come back, hopefully it'll be under a new name and everything will be different. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for hanging. Okay, y'all was asking me about, one person wrote me and asked me about the cruise, Maxwell's cruise. Okay, I plan on going. I think I am. I think no, I probably most likely am. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to answer you. Okay, and yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I'm hoping. All right, yeah, I think so. So yeah, because they were asking me, you guys were asking me, because I had the last week I talked about Maxwell's cruise, and I said how Maxwell, it was the rumors that I heard about Maxwell's cruises that Maxwell's name is on it, but you don't see him as much. Like, he's only performing on it. Like, he does a concert and then his ass is gone, right? But and one of the people wrote me and said, does that mean, because you think you still want to go on a cruise and stuff like that? And I said, oh yeah, more than likely I probably will go this year, more than likely, unless something comes up. Okay, but yeah, and I'm still, I'm still saying more than likely, because, just in case, right? But because I'm like, I have to wait, because I had my schooling. I got to pay for school. Child, this school bill. I was like, child, look at the school bill. And then after that school bill, I'll pay the thing if they still have availability. But I think they're gonna be okay. But I would just say this. Yeah, I did say that. Okay. And I heard somebody else wrote me. Another fan wrote me and said it was true what I said. Okay. So hopefully if somebody from the Maxwell camp heard it, maybe it's maybe they will take that and do something better. Maybe the cruise, you'll see Maxwell more or something. I don't know if nobody even listens to the show, but if somebody passed it along or something and said, hey, you know what, I'm hearing rumors, that people are hearing rumors that you don't, it's important. I always tell people, and that's just a lesson I said to y'all. Some of y'all love the Halston story. There is a movie about Halston, okay? I want to say that to y'all too. There's a Halston movie that tells that Halston story, okay? But yeah, that's true. When you put your name, you can't let everybody put your name to shit, because if you put your name on it, always when you put your name to something, try your best to have your essence in it, stuff like that. That's just what I believe. I just believe if you can't put your name on something and not be involved in it, I think that's crazy. And I'm not dogging Maxwell. Maxwell, hey, I don't know shit. I ain't, want to say I ain't no big time, legend in R&B and shit. What I know, okay? I'm just saying what I perceive. I mean, and then I heard him say in the interview that he didn't pick the artist, and I'm like, or he didn't have anything to do with it. He just, because he's so anxious, he just lets them tell him. I'm like, ain't no way in hell I'd let that happen. But I am a Scorpio and I'm controlling about my shit. I'm a Leo ascendant too. I'd be like, no, and a Virgo moon. Okay, so that tell y'all how I'd be like, let me see that list. I have to approve everybody. Approved. Not approved. Tell that motherfucker they coming. You know what I'm saying? He a Gemini though. Geminis, they flighting, they don't care. You know, yeah, they enemies show up on a cruise. They be like, oh, it's like, you know, they Geminis are one of their personalities don't remember it's their enemy. Whereas, you know, us, we be Scorpios, we be remembering everybody, you know. So yeah, but I still think that's important. If you're going to do a cruise and if you're going to do anything and you're going to put your name to it. I've heard about so many celebrities that they put their names to things and never are involved in them. God, I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. And I hate it. Why even do it? A lot of times people say they do it because they're, you know, trying to make money or they got something going on and stuff like that. But see, your name is power. Your name is investment, especially when you work so hard in the celebrity world to bring your name, bring the power of your, you know what I'm saying? The power of your name to, you know, out there. You can't let anybody just use it and not be involved in the using of it. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't let you put my name on something just not be involved in it. Shit. Damn that. I gotta get something for it and making some decisions in it. Okay. That's just how it is. Okay. That's just what I had to say on that. Okay. And so I hope I answered y'all on that. As far as everything else is concerned, you guys, listen, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your summer. Hopefully I'll be on before the summer. And I might maybe on our first, I might try to do my first show when I'm going to Vegas. I may try to do my first little, you know, how we'll see. Okay. But I may come on and kind of give y'all a little thing about where I'm at, you know, and stuff like that and creating things. But listen, you know, just doing a little massive changing and house cleaning. I hope you guys are patient with me and, you know, enjoy. I'm going to still try to post some news stories and stuff every now and then. Okay. But you guys, thank you for your support of the Carlotta Chatwood Show, my little small audience. I appreciate y'all. And I am going to post. I will let everybody know the new stuff because I know everybody said they did not know that. Some people were saying they did not know StreamYard was on. Okay. So I will try to do more on that end. All right. You guys, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. I talked a lot tonight. Okay. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and I will see you. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Oh shit, I almost forgot. I had to stop. Okay, you guys, remember you can hit me up on the Carlotta Chatwood Facebook page. You can hit me up on Twitter on Carlotta72 Chatwood Show. You can also hit me up on what is it? Shit. TikTok K Carlotta or Carlotta. Y'all know shit. Okay. Threads. The link is on Instagram. Instagram is Carly's with an S _galaxy. Okay. And listen, I understand that I am going to have one formal thing for the shows. Okay. One formal thing. It'll be going across the platforms. Okay. So it'll be easier for y'all. All right. All right. All right, you guys. Thank you for hanging out. And if you missed the show and you're just tuning in, you can rewind back the show if you're listening live. Okay. I'm out. See y'all. Bye.